Alright guys, welcome to Cabana Republic. This is Sybert signing in to For the Win number 30. The big 3-0, but spawning on the left side as our purple Soviet player. He's spawned as random, but he is Fordell, the reigning For the Win champion. And on the right side, as the green allied player representing teammates, and of course all of his allied brethren, this is Goldy. Not really playing as that golden color, but we will forgive him for that. Now, it looks like he has opened up rather safely. He is most likely going to be going for that naval yard, not necessarily looking to go for anything too risky, but it was the crane opener for Fordell, so we do need to keep that in mind as we move forward in this match. He is going to be opening up with a pretty strong economic start and just a single racks as the follow-up into the super reactor, which, I mean, really, you do need that super reactor with the crane opener, but naval yard should be dropping down relatively soon. I guess he could be going naval yard after the second refinery, but I would expect it before. And if one Riptide should be popping out, probably will end up going for two. And of course, Goldy has split off a couple of dogs somewhere, just hiding behind that tree, being very sneaky. Unfortunately, he will get locked down by that roar coming out from Fordell. Won't quite be able to get the drop on him. Fordell going to be moving over to his third refinery location while he's dropping down his tier 2. Of course, from there, he can go into Twin Blades. He could go for some sort of Twin Frog composition. And it's actually kind of surprising that he has gone so long without any anti-air, because certain rushes would totally wreck this, although it is harder to pull off a lot of those cryo rushes on this map. I have seen it done. I don't know if it was actually versus Soviets, though, some of those cryo rushes. But potentially it would have worked out a little bit better. Of course, that does still open Goldy up to a number of risks if he did want to go for that. Third refinery going to be coming down nice and quickly for Goldy. Not sure if he's going to be, or excuse me, for Fordell. Not sure if Goldy is going to be going for a fifth, or for a quick refinery to try to match that of his opponent, or if he's going to be looking to put on a bit of pressure. Of course, he does need to scout that refinery of his opponent. Just keep that in mind. Vindicator going to be heading on out. Conscript's doing a little bit of damage here, being a little bit annoying, but Goldy is also going to be going for his opponent's oil derrick, looking to lock that down. Capture it right there, and of course, that's just a little bit annoying for Fordell to work with. Terror Drone should be able to deal with that dog, no problem. And actually just immediately grinds the Terror Drone to get that little bit of cash back for it. Vindicator swings back around, not exactly sure if he's going to be trying to go for that Bullfrog. He will do a bit of damage. Fortunately, the second Bullfrog wasn't out, so Goldy will be able to escape. Otherwise, that Vindicator would have gone down. The MCV going to be taking a little bit of damage. Fordell needs to react to this. He will be pulling his MCV outside of the range of that Javelin Trooper. Of course, it becomes a little bit dangerous if the Javelin Trooper is able to eject out of that building and get a lock, which is why focus firing down whatever comes out of this barracks is going to be important. It will potentially end up being a dog or a conscript, either a conscript to tilt, or excuse me, a bear or a conscript. A conscript to clear the building, or the bear to try to take down any infantry that are outside of the building. Conscript probably going to be the more likely choice, but this Javelin Trooper could be making a comeback a little bit later. He could start to put on a little bit of pressure to that position. Javelin Trooper going to be getting a laser lock on this War Factory. That can be a pretty big deal. There's going to be the power plant block, and this Hammer Tank needs to respond. No, the Javelin Trooper isn't quite able to get a laser lock just yet. He does manage to land one right there, but this power plant blocking is good enough. And there is going to be the Riptide heading in to try to get the crush or the kill on that Terror Drone. There's the crush on the Javelin Trooper, stopping it from cleaning up that War Factory, and the Terror Drone just barely able to stasis both of those Riptides. Vindicator's taking a little bit of damage there. One Bullfrog, it looks like, did end up going down, but for now, Fordell has hold. He hasn't sustained that much damage, and I know he was putting, just a touch of pressure over here. Not necessarily all that much. He does have the bear going for that bit of a scout, and eventually this oil derrick is going to be going down to this one conscript, although it will take it a very long time. Refinery getting established for Fordell. That is it. That's his number 4. I'm going to have to, for the win, Fordell, 4th refinery. Lots of 4s happening all over the place, which I'm going to have to keep in mind, as the MCV is actually moving directly onto Goldy's side of the map. This conscript will be able to deal with these Javelin Troopers if it wasn't for the Cryocopter. And actually, these Javelin Troopers may end up going down. There's 2 bears here to try to clean these guys up. And there's 1 Javelin Trooper. There's the 2nd Javelin Trooper. But Vindicators are able to come in here and clean up that Harvester, which is a good move for Goldy. He really needs to curb that Soviet economy. Going to be moving in a 2nd Cryocopter Vindicator harassment combo, and potentially will be able to hit up here as well. I don't think he dropped all of his bombs out of that Vindicator, so yeah, he will be able to hit those couple of different locations at the same time. Eliminates a 2nd Harvester. This will really be hurting the income of Fordell, and of course, Fordell also lost the oil derrick earlier on in this game, which means that he doesn't have that supplemental income, and Goldy has held that oil derrick for quite a bit longer than he actually needed to be able to make up that extra cash. But the MCV making its way into the main base of Goldy. If this had been a couple of minutes faster, this would be like an old school Tesla coil rush, but in this case, it's actually hitting a bit later, and it's going to be completely open to do some damage. Now, there is quite a bit of infrastructure here to be hit, but this is what I'm worried about for this push from Fordell, is these Cryocopters. As they're moving in here, they're going to be able to get lots of build time on that Tesla coil, able to freeze it and stop it, forcing it to be rebuilt as the Bullfrogs do come in here. Now, one of these Cryocopters does go down almost immediately. The other 2 are able to get the shrinks off and able to lock down some of these Bullfrogs, but the Bullfrogs are able to kite away. One of them will be eliminated by this Vindicator. 1 bomb dropped, and the other 2 may be able to escape. Yes, they do manage to get out of here, but now this push has been stopped. No, it hasn't been stopped, as the Tesla coil is going to be reestablished, and potentially this Tesla coil will be able to knock down the wall and allow this engineer to get inside here and do some capturing. But this is pretty much all or nothing for Fordell, as long as, well, that engineer was completely wasted. But no, he doesn't have that 4th refinery economy. He's only got his 3 refineries, which he hasn't quite rebuilt all of his harvesters just yet either. And in come the Vindicators, in come the Cryocopters, as they're trying to deal with this the Tesla coil actually does survive. The Cryocopter will be continuing to freeze it. Will it get any more shots off? But the Bullfrog will go down right there, and goodbye Tesla coil, goodbye MCV. Fordell is in quite a pickle, as he does not have potentially any real infrastructure to follow up the next couple of minutes of this game with. Now, can he just survive? If he can survive and start putting the hurt on his opponent, he's going to be in an all-right position. These Vindicators starting to get ranks up, and Goldy needs to keep his Cryocopters alive. He could end up going for Tier 3. He could end up going for those aircraft carriers to try to put the hurt on his opponent that way with some artillery, because the next step in the game, a lot of the times, is into that artillery. Who can get it first? Who can land those first couple of shots and really force engagements from their opponents? Eventually, this oil derrick will go down. But it's been established for so long, it was captured so long ago, that it doesn't necessarily matter all that much right now. Bullfrogs will be getting a couple of pot shots off on that Cryocopter. Cryocopter and Vindicator are going to be heading to the top left. They're going to be looking for that bit of harassment. They're going to be looking for that bit of damage. Oh, that terror drone needs to back up. He's able to lock them down. So that was potentially a good way to waste a terror drone, as actually this Peacekeeper might be able to get some shots off. No, hammer tanks are now here onto the front lines. Goldy is going to have to start dealing with this damage directly. Can the Javelin Troopers actually get some nice shots off here, as the hammer tank just needs to basically turn around and run that guy over? Terror drone does go down. 2 hammer tanks are on the front lines here. Where are the Cryocopters? Where are the Vindicators? They were off on the harassment run, but they should be coming back now. No, they're actually going to be hitting into the main base, able to potentially take out more of the economy, but Fordell is going to be pushing directly into the main base of his opponent. There's not as much for him to kill right here, just because so much of the infrastructure has been rebuilt out on the water, a little bit safer from those hammer tanks. But this little expansion has been completely negated there by Fordell. He just walked completely around it. Bullfrog will end up getting frozen there, but this Cryocopter is taking a hefty amount of damage, which means the second Bullfrog should have enough DPS to take it down. Goodbye, Cryocopter. That's 1 down, but there's still probably a couple of more Cryocopters out on the map. Riptide's trying to respond to deal with the threat to Vindicators in the sky, but they don't quite have enough damage output to deal with this strike just in one go. With 4 Bullfrogs here, it's going to be difficult for these Vindicators to get any real significant bombing runs off, but this is a good way for Fordell to kind of even things up. He was behind in the economy game for a little while of this game, and now he's actually going to be evening things up. There's only going to be 1 refinery working for Goldy. Fordell will soon have 2. He does need to rebuild that harvester, although he may... Yep, he's already got 2, so he does have the one in the north still. And that's just going to be 3 refinery economy once he gets them all established. Vindicator does end up getting eliminated there. Javelin Troopers trying to get some nice shots off on these hammer tanks, but they will be getting pushed back a little bit there by the conscripts. Riptides will manage to get the kill on one of those hammer tanks, and that Riptide did veteran up a little bit there. Cryocopter needs to be very careful to pull back, but now Guardian Tanks rolling in for Goldy, and can he finally push this attack away? Well, the conscripts in this hammer tank may end up going down. It may actually end up getting crushed. Yeah, it does get crushed and eliminated there by one of those hammer tanks. Gets himself an elite status, and this last conscript is going to be being eliminated. Is there anything? Nope, there's nothing going to be popping on out of that seaport. These Bullfrogs could camp the airfield a little bit here, but they have to be careful about overstaying their welcome because a couple of Riptides could deal with them quite nicely. More Guardian Tanks being pumped out. Conscripts trying to clear the building, but will they actually survive for long enough to do anything other than clear the building? I seriously doubt it. Goldy needs to get his economy back online. Of course, Fordell did trade out a couple of hammer tanks to do that harassment. It probably was worth it just in the cost of the harvesters alone. Conscripts aren't that expensive, and I don't think Fordell expended that many infantry units overall. But he does have to keep that in mind. So Fordell trading away quite a few of his army units, trying to really shut down Goldy, and he wasn't able to do devastating amounts of damage. And he did actually... Fordell did clean up a couple of the Vindicators, but I don't know if that was still enough damage, again, because Fordell traded away so many units. Potentially, well, I mean, if Goldy keeps donating away cryocopters, then it may have been enough, but Goldy doesn't have to move out and kill Fordell just right here, right now. In fact, harassing and kind of hitting at the weak points of Fordell may be the best opportunity for Goldy to really secure himself a win. He is still on tier 2, but of course he does have both the airfield and the armor facility. Cryoshot going to be firing down, going to be forcing Fordell to split away and around. Fortunately, Fordell didn't drive too far forward, as Cryoshot is a good way to kind of force enemy units into unfavorable engagements, and the Terror Drone able to lock down that Riptide, will be able to eliminate it, cleaning up just one more unit that Goldy had. A little bit unfortunate there for Goldy to end up losing that Riptide. He would prefer to have those units that can kind of dart in and clean up the Terror Drones when necessary. That conscript had an absolute death wish as he ran way too far forward, but the army is posturing just outside of the front for Goldy. He is just needing to defend. If he can defend here well enough and not take devastating amounts of damage, then he will still be in a good position. Hammer Tank's going to be rushing forward to the front, and here they are in range of those Javelin Troopers, which can always be dangerous. Conscripts potentially will be needing to be sent to the front to try to clear out those buildings. The DPS addition from those Javelin Troopers in the buildings is going to be quite nice. However, Bullfrog's going to be doing a bit of damage, pushing away those Cryocopters. Not doing a great job of defending the northern flank here for Fordell. He does need to push away this Cryocopter and keep it from freezing too much else down, as the Hammer Tanks will be able to deal with the Guardian Tanks with a little bit of micro here as the Guardian Tanks do push forward, although Goldy is trading out some of these weakened Guardian Tanks, sending the higher health ones forward to try to do that extra bit of damage. He needs to send this guy out of that laser lock mode. He needs to, well, unfortunately, he's not quite going to be able to do too much more damage. Leech Beam will allow these Hammer Tanks to clean up that Guardian Tank without too much trouble, and we have entered a bit of a stalemate. Goldy does still have base defenses. He does still have that allied power to deal with this army, but the majority of Fordell's standing army still exists, and the same cannot be said for Goldy. 3 refinery economy has been powering Fordell throughout the majority of this game, and Goldy has never really got ahead super far in the economy. He did get ahead a little bit, but not too terribly long. not too terribly far ahead, rather. Fordell pulling back. Of course, if he wants to go for that MCV, that's a huge shutdown of his war factory. He did indeed rebuild the MCV, and now he can start to slowly snowball into just an economic powerhouse. If he goes up north, he is going to have to clear out the Dolphins. There is a second Dolphin over here, which potentially could come back around to help defend out these refineries and push Fordell away. But if Fordell is able to establish that big economic lead and just roll it into that powerful Tier 3 army, whether that's into aircraft with some Kirovs or just some twin blade harass groups, there's a lot of options for Fordell to take advantage of. Goldy moving out in the middle, Fordell moving out in the north. Is Fordell actually going to be able to do that critical amount of damage? If he can completely take the economy in the main base offline for Goldy, then he'll be in potentially a really good position. But there's actually no anti-air here in the main base. It's completely exposed. These quadcopters can do absolute wonders for the cost effectiveness of Goldy's army composition. It'll allow basically Goldy to tear through the base at a much faster rate than he otherwise would have been able to. But Flak Troopers getting dropped down by Fordell. He's going to be able to carve through this base of Goldy's equally quickly. No units will be able to escape. Fordell dropping down that cash bounty, going to be getting a little bit of cash back on his investments, which is a good way to play it. And of course, Goldy, he wants to keep this building locked down. Oh, one of these Guardian tanks is going to get infected. That's a bit unfortunate there for Goldy. He probably won't be able to drive all the way across the map. He just doesn't have the time to get the repairs. And without an IFV with an engineer on that side of the map, he's not quite going to be able to do all that much about it. Badger Bomber most likely going to be coming down here to drop those toxins on top of these Javelin Troopers. If Goldy is not paying attention, then he'll end up losing it, but the War Factory does end up going down there. This entire attack being pretty well shut down. Well, a lot of the real meat DPS of this attack being shut down in those Javelin Troopers. The Riptide has so little DPS against those buildings that it's almost not even worth talking about, and even it ends up going down. The toxin's just a little bit too strong here. Goldy is falling apart. And Fordell is starting to show why he won for the win at number 29. He's starting to show that resilience and that power, but you can basically never count out an allied player that still has a couple of cryocopters because they can be so cost efficient. They can do so many weird things with engagements that they normally wouldn't be able to. Two fully heroic hammer tanks going to be tanking a little bit of damage there, and too many multi-gunner turrets out on the map. Can Fordell actually take advantage of this? Yes, he is going to be able to take down both of those turrets. Will force one of them to be sold off. The other one does go down. And Fordell going to be crushing through this expansion of Goldy. Can he seal the deal? Can he actually push forward and do that final critical bit of damage? Goldy still has an opportunity. Vindicator and Cryocopters are extremely powerful, as we all know, but Goldy has taken some serious amounts of damage. Unfortunately, Fordell, if he can't quite finish off this naval expansion of Goldy, then Goldy still has a very powerful position in this game. That's where his aircraft are. He can, of course, power out units from the naval yard and, of course, just move over all around the water, avoiding these hammer tanks. And actually, with these Dolphins, he's been able to completely push Fordell onto land. Fordell is going to be expanding over to the right side in kind of a weird side of the map swappy situation. It's very odd to see this sort of setup with these two players, you know, one moving to the right side over from the left side, and Goldy may end up expanding all the way across the bottom of the map, taking this expansion over here. But for now, Goldy is seriously hurting economically. With only one refinery, he has to be very careful with these units. He has to make sure that he doesn't take poor engagements, as he is going to be freezing down the refinery. If he can lock down all of the economy of Fordell, it'll really help even things up. And unfortunately for Fordell, he doesn't quite have the firepower to do anything about this stuff way out on the water. He should be able to start leeching down some of these structures. Oh, actually losing that hammer tank. That wasn't one of the heroic ones, but still, that was a powerful hammer tank, an elite hammer tank there. Actually, that Peacekeeper inside of the structure, a little bit deceptive there, as the hammer tanks forcing those units to eject on out of there, but the bear died a little bit too early on. Fordell, I feel like if he would have gone for Twin Blades a fair bit earlier in this game, he would have had a much better chance. Hydrofoils, Apollos, and multi-gunner turrets can shut down Twin Blades so hard, but those are options that we haven't seen very much out of Goldy in this game, and potentially a quote-unquote late-game tech switch, as we are, several minutes into this match, could really take Goldy by surprise. And it's not necessarily always about hitting super early with those unit compositions, but if Twin Blades hit, this late in the game, Goldy, he's strapped for cash. Is he going to be able to get out the units and the structures necessary to really be able to deal with a bunch of Twin Blades? Vindicator comes in, drops a couple of bombs, but of course the healing power of those heroic units. Oh, one Javelin Trooper does manage to get eliminated. One, or actually a Peacekeeper does manage to escape, but this conscript line may be able to deal with those units. Is actually, wow, Magnetic Singularity being called in on this area. Not actually something that I may have never seen that in a competitive match. Maybe in some sort of a team game, but not like a competitive 1v1, as Fordell drives his own tanks through the toxins for basically no reason at all. A little bit unfortunate there for Fordell. Goldy, as he's forced to move his MCV, this is where things get increasingly weird. Cryoshot going to be firing off. One conscript is not quite going to be the correct cost ratio for using that support power. 200 credits are gained back by Goldy. He is able to kind of survive there. And Goldy is just like, money? Fordell's like, hey, bro, I got myself a refinery. Fordell actually sitting at 2K. He could go ahead and establish more economy or just power out a bunch of units. And Goldy basically is, okay, so Goldy never actually realized that Fordell had that refinery up and running over here. He never scouted it, so he actually thought that Fordell was in a much worse position than he was. So Goldy should have known, because of the Dolphins and the expansion up north, the expansion attempt, he should have known about the MCV being back on the line, back out on the field. But I guess he never really figured it out. Javelin Troopers, can they get out in insane amounts of DPS? The answer so far is no. There are some potential miracle-level wins that Goldy could pull off here. But, like I say, miracle, these are things that almost cannot happen in a real game. They potentially can always happen. Goldy can totally crush through and win this game with very limited units, resources, and tech. But it is highly unlikely. It's not impossible. It's just highly unlikely. Goldy, this is how he does it with cryocopters, riptides, and if he can smash through absolutely everything. Oh my gosh, he just has to kill so much from Fordell with basically only these cryocopters. Actually, Fordell has a severe lack of like highly mobile anti-air. Bullfrogs are pretty mobile, but they're not all that mobile. MiGs would be really nice to have right now. Fordell continuing his choice of never building aircraft. Bullfrogs being pushed away by the Riptide. These are the exact sorts of moves that Goldy needs. This is exactly the pain that Goldy needs to bring against Fordell and how he needs to carve himself back into this game. However, I don't know how much... Actually, let's check. I don't always do this, but let's check how much money Goldy has. 162 credits. So he can't build anything. If he wants to get another refinery up and running, he has to sell stuff off. There's such limited options here for Goldy. I'm not saying there are no options, but the options are just so incredibly limited for Goldy. Having 162 credits, such a limited amount of units, such a limited range of units. This is the weakness of Fordell. He doesn't have proper anti-air, but oh, if he cleans up that Vindicator, that's huge. The Cryocopter goes down as well. Goldy overextending for hardly a moment there, and he's punished in such a hard way. 1,600 credits for the Cryocopter, 1,200 for the Vindicator. Those were hero units. Those were survivor units for Goldy, and now they are dead. He's selling even the walls. He's trying to get what he can, where he can. The victories that Goldy has left to take in these games are small. They're few and far between. As these Dolphins going to be taking a couple of shots here from the Stingray, they will be forced to jump away. trying to mount the heroic defense, that last stand, and as it turns out, Leech Beam is pretty good as far as range. Heroic Hammer Tank Leech Beam is even better as they force the MCV to move even further away. And it's hope against hope. Fordell has carved himself out such a strong position in this game. And I mean, honestly, it's like in other situations, this is not a strong position from Fordell, but it's just because Goldy has no money and has a no income for the past, what, 3 minutes? Maybe even 4 minutes? A single Vindicator. Maybe if the Vindicator was heroic, it would be enough bombs to take that out, but you're going to need the 2 Vindicators to take out those hammer tanks, and he already lost that Vindicator. Hammer tanks looking for more targets. Aircraft would be an incredible tech switch for Fordell. He's going for a 3rd refinery instead. He's going for the Stingray composition. Is he going to continue to power out those Stingrays? As Cryogeddon going to be firing off for Goldy. Vindicator is going to be coming in. There's the freeze. This is the moment. And yes, he has taken down 1 refinery. Oh, actually, this one got canceled. That refinery actually just got straight up canceled. Stingray number 1 moving in. The Vindicator has already dropped some bombs. Is he going to be able to save his airfield, his last couple of structures here? As Goldy is fighting in the long and hard way. He's just trying to stay in the game to the absolute limits. Oh, he's got a multi-gunner turret. He can survive for so much longer now, as he is going to be able to push away these units and do that bit of damage. A terror drone even being brought out onto the field by Fordell just to make sure that there's no easy comeback scenario for Goldy. Infrastructure dotted around the map for Fordell. It's just one of those games where it turns very scrappy and neither player is in a strong enough position to outright win. Neither player is in a strong enough position to let the other guy know that, hey, you've actually lost. And oh, the Vindicator goes down, handing off heroic status to that Bullfrog. Thank you, says the Bullfrog. He just got a promotion to being the general of Fordell's army, and now Fordell has even less to deal with as that Vindicator does go down. GG, well played, comes out from Goldy, and he will be leaving this match. Game number 1 in, like, what, 25 minutes was that game? Just over 21 minutes. So 23-minute long game to start us out. A macro SVA. Lots of action coming in for these guys. Of course, we've got more games coming up soon. Welcome to Snowplow and game number 2 of this best of 3 from the first round of For the Win number 30. In the southern position as our Purple Empire player, this is Fordell. He's up 1-0. In the northern position, our Green Allied player representing teammates. He needs your cheers. He's down 0-1, going for the double racks opener, of course. This is Mates Goldy. I would not expect anything other than a double racks opener. There are some really hard double racks all-ins that you can do on Snowplow and get away with it as allies if you are good enough. I'm not necessarily sure that Goldy is super practiced in his double racks all-in. If this was Yui, I would put a lot more confidence in him. But I don't know how much cheese Goldy likes to play. Hopefully the stream is running a bit smoother for you guys. And he is going to be selling off one of the racks, so he's not going super hard all-in with the infantry. He's going to be splitting off one engineer to the right side, going to be hoping to take that oil derrick. Fordell, of course, he knew when this game started that it was going to be Empire versus Allies. Goldy did not know that, so his opener, he was looking to just be safe against everything. He is going to be keeping alive one of those boot camps. He's going to be keeping that production going just a little bit longer, bringing out a couple of more dogs just in case. He did go for double refinery. He didn't go into naval yard first or anything like that. And the oil derrick actually grabbed by Goldy way sooner than Fordell has been able to grab his own. Imperial Warriors going to be rushing forward, and Fordell going for a couple of crushes with the dojo as well, but he's completely cut down the front line of defense. Goldy kind of messing up that engagement a little bit there, and unfortunately for Goldy, he is going to be taking a bit of damage, but with this airfield, will he be taking all that much damage? Dog going to be coming on out, will get a nice kill on one of those Imperial Warriors, and Goldy should have enough forces to hold this off, but he will be taking a couple of more losses. Now, the dangerous thing, if he's not able to actually kill off these Imperial Warriors before they get a nice arc on that airfield. Goldy does have a Javelin Trooper, which, of course, that extra bit of credits that he spent on that Javelin Trooper may end up being eliminated. Oh, no, that Imperial Warrior. He could have actually gone for that Javelin Trooper if he really wanted to. First Vindicator may be popping out relatively soon here. It is still just Tier 1, but there is going to be a multi-gunner turret placed down very quickly, which is to be expected from Goldy. It is his front line of defense, and it will help him clear out these units very easily. MCV now moving forward. Goldy also cleaning up at least one of the bridges. I'm not sure if he's going to go ahead and laser lock this other one as well. Is he actually he's going to run all the way across that bridge and potentially go for something over here. He's actually going to be potentially laser locking down. No, he can't. He can't actually get it. This dojo is going to crush that Javelin Trooper almost for sure. It's going to have to be some high-level jukes for that Javelin Trooper to actually do any real damage. Dojo is going for the splits. Nope. Javelin Trooper does end up going down. Vindicator comes on in. And where's that refinery actually going? It's way over here to the left. If that gets spotted by the Vindicator, it may end up taking a bit of damage. Tengu is going to be turning around. It is going to be forced to deal with that Vindicator. He's going to have to try to target that down as much as possible. He doesn't want to let that Vindicator escape if he can, because Vindicator's escaping. Ooh, you just want to cut down those numbers if you can. Third refinery going to be coming up relatively soon here for Fordell. Will it be doing the same for Goldy? Quite possibly. Tengu's taking a little bit of damage. That Apollo dealing some healthy damage, but overall it's one of those engagements where everybody controls quite nicely. And actually, no, this Apollo may end up going down. Yes, it does get eliminated, so he trades out Apollo for a Tengu. He is going to be forced to make that trade. A little bit unfortunate there for Goldy to end up losing that Apollo. He really would like to maintain that air superiority. And Goldy never did take out that bridge. He let it survive. Dog going for the scout should head over to this base, or to that refinery, to that expansion, and keep an eye on it. Vindicators and Apollos being forced back. Tengu's going to be looking for a little bit of blood. Goldy still not having enough confidence and enough cash to really take his third refinery just yet. He, of course, does have that oil derrick, so that's a nice advantage. But since that third refinery is actually online, oh, these Apollos do need to get out of here relatively soon. Since the third refinery is online for Fordell, he does have a nice economic lead, even when you're considering the oil derrick. Those Imperial Warriors, unfortunately, won't be able to do all that much. Vindicators will be able to clean them up, no problem. And these Javelin Troopers, man, Goldy is really enjoying just splitting off some Javelin Troopers to different parts of the map, trying to do little bits of damage. This Riptide going to be going for a bit of a harassment, and actually this Javelin Trooper may end up getting crushed by that dojo. Apollo's taking a little bit of damage from that Tengu, but of course you have to be so careful when harassing with Tengus. No, it's a friendly pass-off as they just high-five and both continue on their way. Goodbye, one Apollo, and second Apollo narrowly manages to escape, almost goes down there. A couple of Tengus getting eliminated there. I think just one thus far. Cleaning up this refinery would be a huge win for Goldy. He really needs that economic lead. He really needs to even things up in that sense. Javelin Trooper on the high ground is another really great choice. If the Tengus are on the wrong side of the map, then Fordell is going to have a bit of a hard time actually dealing with this harassment. Can Goldy actually get any real damage done on it? There's nothing being produced by that Mecha Bay. A fourth refinery going to be coming up for Fordell, and one refinery down, or two harvester down. Well, one of them did get constructed into a command hub, so we can sell that off for a little bit of cash back, but one harvester down, second harvester forced away. And one refinery down. Goldy's starting to strike back. Can he actually clean up this refinery? He's going to laser lock one of the walls and then laser lock the refinery. But this is the first warning that Fordell has. Goldy needs to stay on top of that laser lock. He needs to make sure that he gets it off immediately or as quickly as possible. He's going to start eating away at that refinery. I guess he can't quite get it without the second wall segment being down. And will he actually be able to get any real damage off? He's going to be forcing the walls to be reconstructed time and time again. But now the Tengus have landed, and that Javelin Trooper has gone down. That harassment being completely shut down there by Fordell, excuse me. Goldy trying to split off just a couple of units here and there. Vindicator's coming in. Not really able to do all that much. Cleaning up a couple of Tengus is quite nice, but if he trades away too many Apollos, he really has to be careful as he looks to transition into potential cryocopters and the mid to later stages of this game. He really needs to maintain that air superiority over the Empire player. Both of the oil derricks in control of Fordell. He's going to be getting that extra bit of cash, and of course, with the refinery advantage that he's basically maintained, he's just going to be furthering that economic lead. Goldy still with no expansion, even in the far corners of the map. He's just got nothing going on. He's sitting on that 2 refinery, and now Fordell is starting to just outproduce him. He doesn't have a real answer to these tsunami tanks. If he had multi-gunner turrets down, he'd be able to hold off for a fair bit longer. With some potentially clever control, he will be able to do some damage, but no, the Vindicator gets eliminated there. It drops a couple of bombs, and one of the tsunami tanks does go down really quite quickly. The other one will be getting targeted down, but it will be forced to activate those nano deflectors. There's the sell-off. There's the GG. Goldy has been defeated. Fordell takes it 2-0. And we'll move on to the next round of For the Win, number 30, as he will progress even further. And can he continue with a nearly flawless score following up his For the Win number 29 performance? Because I believe, if I remember correctly, both Vindies and Fordell, who were finalists in For the Win number 29, did so with perfect scores into the finals. Fordell is looking to continue that reign of almost 0 map losses in this event. All right, guys, welcome to our second series of the day that I'm going to be casting. This is For the Win number 30, and spawning on the right side as the red Soviet player from NACL, the Saltiest Clan in Red Alert 3, this is GBHMichael! On the left side, dropping that power plant, most likely into some sort of airfield shenanigans. From teammates, this is Andrew! Which sometimes he smurfs as, like, medium Vindies, which, of course, Vindies, one of the players on Team Mates. So just kind of an interesting fact for you there. Not necessarily a big deal at all, but, you know, maybe just one of those things that some people find interesting. And you're looking up at the score at the top, and you're like, oh, where's game number 1? Well, unfortunately, we did miss it. I am sorry to report, but Andrew is up 1-0. So if you're just now joining us, we have missed that first game together. I don't know how it went. I don't know what the starting map was. GBHMichael immediately like, I smell cheese. As you can see, the airfield way out on the water where the infantry can't get it. Double walls on the single refinery. Andrew really picking up the paces from Mates Vindies. That power plant is potentially the only weak point here for Andrew. And this is a good way to take a player who's better than you out of a tournament, is double cheese them. I don't know if it was cheese in game 1, but it is one of those things where you can totally cheese a better player out of a tournament, a quote-unquote better player than you. Now, of course, then we can get into all sorts of discussions about what defines a player as being better. Should a better player always win regardless of whether or not it's cheese? You can talk about that stuff all day long. 2 Bullfrogs heading out immediately. They're looking to put out the damage on that Vindicator. They're looking to do that extra bit of DPS out. And Cryocopter does get 1 shrink off. The Bullfrogs are going to be getting frozen down, but it's into the MCV push. As yes, this MCV is going all the way across the map. And if he can shut down the Cryocopter or the Vindicator, oh my gosh, this Vindicator is taking so much damage. Goodbye, Vindicator, as he trades it out for one of the Bullfrogs. Not only is that a price differential, but those 2 units are so different in how they're used. in this particular matchup with these builds. This Cryocopter is so incredibly close to going down, and now with this Stingray here, these Bullfrogs need to come over to assist the Stingray, but with the Stingray here, it means that Andre just cannot easily turret push his opponent's main. He has to deal with the DPS, he has to deal with the damage of that Stingray before he can really safely turret push. Infantry starting to go in. Oh no. Serious lag spike there. I may end up having to leave this game if things get a little bit dangerous, if things get a little bit laggy. But can Andre do it? He doesn't have a whole lot of DPS here, but he can lock down those units and structures. There's going to be that multi-gunner turret, and GBHMichael is going to be piecing out of there with his Stingrays. Now, of course, Stingrays can't take that much damage, but they can tank a little bit. Taking out the power plant is, of course, a good move, but GBHMichael pulls back. It may have been a Q move. He may have selected his entire army to pull them all back, or at least all of the conscripts. Yeah, it looks like that was a mistake. He is going to be heading back over to take care of that power plant now. Stingrays heading onto the land to help deal with these infantry. Of course, they will strengthen this infantry army quite a bit here for GBHMichael, allow him to one-shot a lot of those infantry. Barks do come off here, but GBHMichael hasn't taken huge amounts of damage. It is, of course, going to be into more and more multi-gunner turrets. And the Peacekeeper will be forced to eject out of that multi-gunner turret, which means it's not nearly as good at dealing with those infantry as it otherwise would be. But Stingrays take a surprising amount of damage from basically everything. They just don't have a lot of HP. They don't have a lot of armor. And as a result, they are going to be going down. And oh no, GBHMichael switched them over to AK-47s. He's using that like select and smash W move a little bit too much there. He's actually going to be finally going for the power plant, but Andre has already rebuilt it over here. Andre is just in a very precarious situation with basically very little income. He's going to have to make sure every unit and every structure count. GBHMichael donating away a couple of those Stingrays is not a good move. He needs to make sure that he doesn't have too many more moves like that, that he doesn't have too many more free units that he just gives away. This Cryocopter moving forward. There's no Bullfrogs in the immediate vicinity to help deal with this Cryocopter, so he's all right for now. But can he stop it? Now the Molotov cocktails are back out. He's going to start working away at these walls. He's going to start getting his way into that refinery to try to cut off the one thing that's powering Andre, the one sort of economic state that he has got that is keeping him in this game. As even the power plants, if they get eliminated, this could be lights out. It depends on how many other structures Andre has. One power plant is not enough with the MCV packed up. If the MCV was unpacked, he would probably have just enough to keep himself online. But now any production that he has is going to be doubled. And Andre, he's forced to sell off one of the multi-gunner turrets, it looks like. The second one is online, basically in the kind of main base of GBHMichael. It's not actually where the infrastructure and the important stuff is, but instead it is going to be where that MCV is waiting for GBHMichael. Andre is going to be going immediately into the command hub. He probably wasn't going to be getting any real crushes off, but there's the GG. GBHMichael, has he done it? Has he started the comeback to take him into the next round? But Andre has another shot. Will he cheese in game number 3? Will he play straight up? We will have to see, as we've got that one final match to take us through into the last game of this series. And Andre dropping that map, but he's got the comeback potential. It's 1-1. Let's take a look at game number 3. We are back into Snowplow, and once again, we have in the northern position from NACL, this is GBHMichael. And in the southern position, leading the series 1-0, but he just lost the previous game, and now he's all tied up. This is Andre from Teammates. So who will actually be taking this game? Because, of course, Andre opened up with a strong 1-0 lead overall, and then GBHMichael in game number 2 was able to make things happen, make the magic work. Now, Andrew is opening up immediately into airfield. He's really liking this fast airfield play so far. Will it work better in this game than it did on Cabana Republic? Quite possibly. Now, there's a couple of reasons for that. It's a much smaller map and smaller rush distance for one, but GBHMichael is ready, so maybe it won't end up working. Because, of course, if your opponent doesn't really prepare for it, then it's very easy for a cheese to take them by surprise and basically win you a game, not quite for free. We don't want to say for free because things always take a little bit of effort, but it's almost for free. It's like so close to being for free. And then the other part of this is you can drop down your MCV in like a position where you can still get your tier 2 over here, but you can place base defenses like way over here. I don't actually know. I don't know. You know, he's too far now. He is out of that tier 2 range, so he's not going to be going for cryocopters as well. He's just going to be going for the base push. He sees, oh, that's a lot of flak troopers. He's going to need some sort of peacekeeper support with this multi-gunner turret. Will he actually be able to get any multi-gunner turrets down and be able to do anything? Well, we shall see. Flak troopers heading in, but these Vindicators, if they can get a nice angle on the right side of the map, they might be able to do some serious damage. It's into a war factory. Not immediately, of course. He had to pump out a lot of units just to be able to survive. Going for the reactor is a nice choice there, forcing that to be rebuilt. And, of course, okay, so the flak cannon is actually already offline, so he doesn't have to worry about, you know, those base defenses not being able to hold him in this game because pretty much his entire army is based on live units, which, of course, don't require power. They just require food. Unfortunately, this is a video game, so you don't have to actually feed them. Multi-gunner turret going to be getting a couple of shots off there on that conscript, but these peacekeepers are most likely just going to be overwhelmed. The dog, can it get some tremendous roars off? Yes, it does, but can the second dog actually clean things up? No, it cannot, as now the barracks is down, and there's still enough conscripts here to finish off this peacekeeper before it really does any damage. And that's the thing about getting those units out, is unfortunately, you just need something to actually finish them off. Conscript's going to be doing some pretty hefty damage to this multi-gunner turret. Keep in mind that Andrew is running off of that single refinery. He doesn't have a whole lot of resources that he can waste. He's going to have to do this efficiently. Throwing away those multi-gunner turrets and not doing a lot of damage with them is a good way to hand the win over to GBHMichael. Sentry gun is going to be tanking a little bit here for these conscripts, and of course he can cancel and rebuild that as many times as he wants. There we go. It gets shut down, but now the conscripts are in a good concave position. These dogs could come in here and absolutely wreck face as they get into the middle of these conscripts, starting to eat away at the numbers, starting to take a couple of them down, but not really able to get those massive kills off, not able to get those massive amounts of damage off that they really want to be able to do. And now the bears are out in a healthy number. Andrew is being shut down. The miracle that he needed, the dogs to just be the heroes that he needed, it did not happen. Vindicators coming in, they take out a barracks. So what? He's got so many forces out on the map. He's got such a better position in comparison with Andrew. Andrew is not in a favorable position at all. It's not a good situation to be in for Andrew. And GBHMichael is going to be looking to move into the next stage of this game. Can he actually get any units out of his war factory? He does have to continually be selling it off and rebuilding it. But he is going to be dropping down a multi-gunner turret. He is going to be drawing away the fire of that multi-gunner turret. Excuse me, he's going to be dropping down a sentry gun, drawing away the fire of that multi-gunner turret. And he has built and canceled that refinery, that war factory, excuse me, about a dozen times. Now, Andrew wisely placed one power plant in the very southern position that he could, so he is going to be able to keep that power online. And Andrew continually taking down reactor after reactor is one of those ways that he can try to get back into the game. It's still going to be difficult. He still has very limited income. He still has very limited options. But as long as he has options, as long as the game is still alive for him, then he can make the comeback. Again, no one said it's going to be easy. No one said it's going to be likely, but it's possible. It's always possible, and sometimes you see those incredible moves, but it's going to take some serious micro from this guy. Again, taking out barracks is nice. Forcing GBHMichael to rebuild reactors is nice. Is it game-winning moves? No, not usually. Not usually. GBHMichael, he's going for the jugular. He's like, oh, you're defending up here. I bet you don't have anything back at home. Okay. Easy peasy. I just go back to what was your main base. I do my bit of damage. I clean up your infrastructure there. And I win the game. Just go kill the guy is sometimes what you need to do. You just go kill the guy. Now, Andrew is, of course, going to be holding on as long as he can, repositioning his airfield in a more fortuitous position, just somewhere that he can actually get reinforcing bombers out onto the field, well, rather refueling his bombers and getting them back onto the field so much more quickly than he otherwise would have been able to. But the refinery is down. He's not actually going to be... I don't know if he has any units that could hit that far. I mean, hammer tanks could, but, of course, he hasn't really been able to get up that Tier 2, hasn't really been able to get up to that War Factory production. Quad racks production. The Saltiest Clan in Red Alert 3 knows how to do things the salty way. As Andre is up against the ropes. No income. No real production. One airfield. No Tier 2. No cryocopters. He's going up against those conscripts. He's going to be trying to go for the crushes with his MCV, but that can sometimes just be difficult to actually get your MCV to move where you want it to. Doesn't get the crush on it. That ore collector is still alive. He's trying desperately to get the crush on that ore collector, but he can't. I mean, it's just sitting there. What is the MCV going to do? Not a whole lot. That's the answer. Oh, heroic Javelin Trooper, not Javelin Trooper, Flak Trooper ends up going down. A bit unfortunate there. Harvester is still alive. MCV is moving over to the other refinery, trying to do some magic there. The bomb splits, they can be incredible, but they also won't matter that much. At the end of the day, Andre has basically an MCV. The engineer gets sniped. GG! Well played! And there it is going to be decided as game number 3 will go to GBHMichael, and Andre will drop into the losers bracket. Of course, things are not over for him at For the Win number 30. He's got a shot at redemption. He's got a shot at the long-term comeback. Can he do what Yui did for the 2014 Christmas tournament, where he came back from the losers bracket being knocked down by Kiro early on? Actually, no, it wasn't Kiro. It was Kimi no Uji getting knocked down there and then fighting his way back through the losers bracket to take the event. That could be Andre coming up in just a couple of hours. Of course, he's going to have to fight through that losers bracket and the new maps that are available there. But welcome to Cabana Republic, game number 1 of the round of 8. This is the first round of 8 match that I'm going to be casting, kicking us off For the Win number 30, spawning on the right side. Our red Soviet player from Team NACL, the saltiest clan in Red Alert 3, this is GBHMichael! And on the left side, he used to be an allied player, but today, he's bringing the Empire power. From Team H2O, this is Tony! Can he bring the Empire power close enough to destroy GBHMichael? I don't know. We will find out. Of course, a shout out to Master Dalk for constructing the lovely scoreboard up here. He took the graphic assets that I created for my scoreboards and YouTube videos and then found a way to display them on stream in a non-CPU intensive way. It's really quite nice. So shout out to him for that. Thank you to him for making that. And don't worry, this very cheerful music, which I never realized this before, but it sounds like it's got, like, kids chorus in the background going like, ba ba ba. I never actually realized that before. Don't worry, it'll soon be gone. It's got kind of like this, like, 80s vibe to it, with the synth going on there. Alright, so let's do a quick recap. It was triple dojo opener here for Tony. He's going to be able to grab his oil derrick. GBHMichael went for the barracks into power plant. He's going double ref into the super reactor, so he wants that tier 2 up and nice and early. He's not worried about getting sickles, terror drones, or bullfrogs out on the map super early. He's going to be looking more for that kind of mid-game composition, potentially a quick third refinery. He may have been expecting Tony to go immediately into a third refinery because fast 3-ref openers are relatively common by Empire players. There were some Empire players who were, I don't know I don't know if characterized is the right way to say it, but, like, if you guys remember Profloff or Purr, he used to do fast 3-ref openers pretty often. I don't know about, like, super often. But he would do kind of that fast, blind 3-ref into kind of just a greedy style of play because it is so strong. In this particular case, GBHMichael may have been expecting that. He is going to be scouting out with this flak trooper like, oh, no, you're not actually up here in the north. You didn't actually go for that 3 refinery opener. So I don't actually have to go for a necessarily, like, super fast 3rd refinery myself. Instead, as you can see, he's streaming the stingrays out across the map. He's putting out that DPS and that damage on this little bit of a, you know, wall segment here. He's not necessarily going to be doing a crazy amount of damage with these stingrays. Potentially, once either Tengus with some micro or Chopper VXs with no micro come out, they will be able to clean up these stingrays easy peasy, no problem at all. Of course, Tier 2 being down means that Akula subs are always a threat. Will he actually go for Akula subs right now? I don't know about that. Just because there's not a lot of stuff out on the water, and the stingrays have a little bit more utility. You want to talk about utility? A unit that's got an extreme utility is the sudden transport. Now, with one tsunami tank out here on the field, it will be able to do a little bit of pushing away of these stingrays, but these stingrays should also be scouting out. Oh, no, they're actually just going to be popping the tank busters immediately onto the front lines. I don't know if that was necessarily the best move right there, right then, but they will be able to snipe down one of the stingrays. That's good amount of DPS now gone from this army, a third approximately, as the 2 of these stingrays are now down to that half HP, but so close to death is this sudden transport. One more shot will send it into absolute oblivion and all of the tank busters inside of it. GBHMichael takes his 3rd refinery, confident that he can power into an economic game and deal with the Empire prowess of Tony. For a second, I thought that sudden transport was going to go down in a blaze of fiery glory, but no. The tank busters popped out, sniped down that stingray, and pushed away the remaining forces, at least for now. On the right side of the map, Burst Drone being annoying. Tengu going to be going for that bit of harassment, which of course will take a while if he activates that adaptive armor. Now, Airfield is back out on the field, or excuse me, not back out on the field, but it's finally being constructed. I guess not finally in this game, but we did see a game with Fordell where Fordell just refused to build an airfield like all game long. It would have helped things out if he had decided to go for the airfield at some point, but in this particular case, GBHMichael will have that airfield much earlier. Sentry gun is going to be getting established here, but GBHMichael needs to be worried about these tank busters. And Tony, if he's able to snipe down this refinery, that would be such a great move. Tony could really put himself in a solid position by eliminating that refinery and taking a 3rd of his own. No, Tony, back up, back up. He has to get out of there with that refinery. Even if he would have gone all the way and established it here, that flak trooper could have jumped out, switched to magnetic mines, and finished the job. The harassment has been pretty much pushed away, but that refinery has been completely shut down. A great move here by the sudden transport and by Tony. Imperial Warrior heading up north should be able to deal with that civvy structure and the flak trooper that's inside of it. No problem. Easy peasy. Tsunami tanks are now moving to the right side of the match. Now, GBHMichael hasn't actually had an opportunity to play against CCZD Tony's Empire play. So Tony is going to be, you know, potentially bringing out some unusual things, but that was a nice sudden transport snipe. I don't know that the airfield will actually survive too much longer. I don't know if it'll actually be worth it if you snipe down that. Oh, he tried to pick it up with the Twin Blade. Wasn't quite able to save the Stingray, as there goes the airfield. It gets completely eliminated there, and the Stingray will be able to survive a little bit longer. Goodbye, Tsunami Tank. So Tony can potentially pull out some ace in his sleeve, because going into this match, GBHMichael was expecting Tony to be an allied player. And of course he is not. Tony actually grabbing both of the oil derricks, a nice move there. We'll actually just take the expansion out on the water, which could be dangerous, again, if Akula subs get integrated into the composition for GBHMichael. Now, of course, with Twin Blades, you have to be so careful when engaging Tengus, because if you have a hammer tank or a Stingray or flak troopers inside of that Twin Blade, it can get sniped so quickly. Goodbye to Twin Blades. That's a lot of cash down the drain as they both get completely eliminated for the cost of just the one Tengu. The Stingray will be able to escape. This conscript will be taking the attention of all of those Tengus for a little bit longer. Burst Drone going to be slowing down this Harvester, being a little bit annoying. Shouldn't be a huge deal, but it is certainly an annoyance. It is a slowdown to GBHMichael, but GBHMichael, can he establish himself in a strong way? Can he actually get a big victory? Because right now, he's not being torn to pieces, but he's starting to be picked apart by Tony. Of course, Tony, representing H2O, would love to take a strong win for his clan against Team NACL. One of the most powerful clans in Red Alert 3 overall, as far as we're considering active players, but maybe not the most powerful. Sniping down both of those Harvesters, such a nice move. Limited amounts of Tengus lost. The economy absolutely in shambles here for GBHMichael. Poofed, comes down, going well, he says. That's sarcasm, kids, if you don't speak it. He is not happy. He has to drop 1,800 credits to try to rebuild those Harvesters. The GG comes down, no surprise. GBHMichael drops map number 1 against Tony from Team H2O. And that will do it for the first game of the round of 8 from For the Win, number 30. This is the best of 3, so GBHMichael has an opportunity to make the comeback. But whoever loses here is not out of the tournament. They drop down to the loser's bracket and have a shot at redemption. Have a shot at the comeback. Welcome to game number 2. Infinity Isle is the spawning map. And the man on the right side, the Empire player, he is up 1-0 in this best of 3 series. This, from Team H2O, is Tony. And on the left side, as our red Soviet player from Team NACL, he needs your cheers. He's down 0-1. This is GBHMichael. So can he mount the comeback? He opened up with an 0-1 deficit against Andrew in the previous round. That did not stop GBHMichael from making the 2-0 happen and advancing on to the quarterfinals, to the winner's bracket quarterfinals, I should say. So, GBHMichael, he can come from behind. He's done it in the past. He literally did it in the previous series that we watched. Tank Buster's once again going to be coming out for Tony. He's going to be looking to potentially, we'll have to see if he's looking to do the same sort of sudden transport moves, which we've seen from players like Kimi no Uji be extremely powerful. That sudden transport with the Tank Busters inside of it is a good idea in many situations. Tank Busters pushing on forward. The racks have pretty much all been sold off, but a couple of base defenses are being packed along as well. Is he actually going to be driving all the way with this Defender core? That's pretty surprising. Sickles are indeed powerful on Infinity Isle. A good way to open. GBHMichael, he's going to need some stellar control to really break this cost effectively. Now, potentially, if he's able to get some money shots off with the conscripts and eliminate a lot of the Tank Busters, his Sickles can deal with pretty much everything else. Engineer grabs the oil derrick. A nice move there by Tony. Relatively even trades there. 2 conscripts for an Imperial Warrior. Burst Drone being annoying. Will get sniped down. Nice for GBHMichael. Sniping that Burst Drone, denying that bit of vision, that bit of scouting. Good move. I guess you could call this a turret push. I guess. I don't know if you should, but I guess you could call it a turret push. MCV moving forward. It's going to be here to tank the shots. Oh! That hammer tank got absolutely destroyed as Tony focused down with those units. Misclicks comes out. And yes, we can indeed call that a misclick. The sickle and the hammer tank getting absolutely wrecked there. And GBHMichael is going to have a hard time breaking this position. Tony can do essentially whatever he wants off the back of this, going for a third refinery into the Mecha Bay. He's going to be relatively safe doing that as well. Sickle comes in. Can he get the DPS out on these Tank Busters? He needs to eliminate pretty much all of these Tank Busters. No, they're into the spider hole. They are going to be able to survive that a little bit longer, but now the Imperial Warriors slashing through pretty much everything that Tony does have in front of him as the Sickle gets eliminated. The Tank Busters come back up from below, and they can get some nice money shots off on this MCV. It's going to be tanking a lot of damage from those anti-armor shots. Those tank busters getting a fair bit of damage out. Double oil derricks. And it's GG, says GBHMichael. He's pretty much finished with this game as far as he's concerned. He's going to make one last hurrah, it looks like, soaking up some health from that civilian structure, getting his hammer tanks back up to full HP. Actually, I think this guy should probably just stop attacking it. He's not really helping the cause, and this guy's already back up to full HP, so... GBHMichael is still going to give it his best shot. He's not backing out just now. The hope is alive. Hashtag the dream is all that GBHMichael really has left at this point. I would kind of like to see Tony just go for a 4th refinery really fast, just because it would be stupid economic advantage. Like, 3 refinery double oil derrick is already such a solid economic lead over a double refinery play. But things aren't over. The MCV still has a fair amount of HP. Oh, I guess he jumped in an engineer inside of that. MCV got the full heal up, but with not a lot of anti-air, these Striker VXs are going to be pushing out a huge amount of damage. Bear's going to be coming in here trying to get some incredible damage off on these Imperial Warriors so that hopefully the tank busters can be dealt with by the Bears, but no. The answer is not here. GBHMichael is faltering. He's falling apart. He's being stripped of any power in this game by these aircraft. The Bullfrog comes out, instantly destroyed. And that was one heck of an engagement for Tony. Not for GBHMichael at all, as Tony takes a swift 2-0 victory over NACL's GBHMichael. And GBHMichael, he's not out of things yet. He certainly does have an opportunity to come back in this tournament, but he's going to find it that much more difficult. We've got more games coming up. Don't go anywhere. For the Win number 30 continues, and welcome to Fire Island. Spawning in the southern position, our blue allied player from Team H2O defeating GBHMichael 2-0. This is Tony. And in the top right, our purple Empire player hailing from Teammates. He's been gone for a year. His first tournament appearance on CNC Online. This is Jeromo, or Jeromo. So both of these guys have proved themselves to be powerful players one way or another. I would say Jeromo, in his height, in his peak, is the far better player. But Tony is showing us some surprises. He's showing us some strong play overall. So potentially he's got some sneaky, sneaky tricks up his sleeve. Potentially he has got some power play that we have not seen out of Tony just yet. But Allies vs. Empire is a matchup, particularly on Fire Island, that Jeromo should be familiar with. He should know. He's probably played this matchup on this map hundreds of times. My guess is probably more than 200. So hundreds of times overall. Of course, when he was playing, he did have to play against guys like Waff the Wolf, C9, Yui, and of course others going back even further. So he's played this map quite a bit. Of course, he's been around for a little while. He's been playing around in the competitive scene for a little while. Openers thus far looking pretty standard, nothing too wonky. Early MCV move by Jeromo. Potentially going to be taking a relatively quick third. Tony does kind of secure a little bit of safety, but Jeromo grabs both of the oil derricks, and that's very important. An Empire player getting the cash back on both of those. I think he got the cash back on both of them. I mean, there's the engineers for Tony. That's such a big deal for Jeromo, just confidence-wise, not even counting the economic advantage that he is now at. I mean, he got the cash back on the engineers, so at the very least, he's got that going for him. And then after that, every 2 seconds, getting himself 30 credits. Airfield is now down for Tony. Of course, he did go Naval Yard for the Riptides, but for now, the Riptides are going to be moving out. He's going to be looking to clear and push back these infantry. Of course, he needs to be careful that he doesn't get too far ahead. He needs the Peacekeeper support to really crush Jeromo's Imperial Warriors and keep them distracted. Jeromo potentially could dive forward to try to go for the engineer if it ends up popping out, but Peacekeeper's starting to tear through these units. There are a surprising number of Imperial Warriors, though. It is going to take some nice micro back here from Tony. He is going to be able to clean up pretty much all of those Imperial Warriors. The tank busters as well being eliminated. Jeromo committing quite a few infantry to that attack. Not really doing all that much. Ooh, do not jump that engineer into the weakened Riptide. Jump it into the full health Riptide. That is going to be a much better option. One tank is going to be moving out. We'll get some nice shots off on this Vindicator. Can he actually clean it up? That would be such a big move. That first Vindicator going down. Nobody likes losing the first Vindicator. It can snowball in a big way. Javelin Trooper jumps on out. It's got the laser lock mode activated. This Imperial Warrior is here to help push that attack away. It's here to help push things a little bit further into the favor of Jeromo. Potentially this engineer on the left side is going to be able to capture this oil derrick. Yep, should be able to have that absolutely no problem. Goodbye. The oil derrick has been captured. Oh, another Vindicator is going to be taking a little bit of damage there. This Apollo is completely surrounded. Should be able to escape, albeit barely, as the second Apollo comes in to start trading blows with these Tengus. What are you doing? Be very careful. Oh, he just walks right in, snipes down that Tengu, gets right out, making use of that F key, that super speed on those Apollos, that incredible speed from the Apollos, able to escape from almost every situation. Sometimes you think, oh, for sure this Apollo is going down. Oh, for sure I've killed off this Apollo. It is too low on HP. It can't move that quickly. And it moves that quickly. It gets out of there. Oh, my word, is Jeromo actually going for this right now? Does Tony have a Vindicator here? No, he does not, but he does have the pack up. Goodbye, as that engineer packs on up, gets on out of there. But with this base defense, going to be getting a nice amount of DPS out on this army. These Apollos will all go down. Air superiority suddenly goes into the huge favor of our Empire player. Jeromo has got a big win in the aircraft war right then, right there. If he transforms all of these Tengus, potentially he can snipe down all of the remaining aircraft, which really is just a couple of Vindicators at this point, maybe only one Vindicator, as the Apollos are slowly starting to be rebuilt and filter their way onto the map. Resetting that Apollo count is nice. Shutting down any of the production on that airfield, potentially that could be cryocopters being pumped out. Of course, with the MCV that far forward, it couldn't actually have been, but in a slightly different universe where this game slightly is different. And Tony ends up going for Tier 2, taking out those Apollos and forcing the Allied player to spend that time rebuilding the Apollos instead of building other units. Can be so powerful. 3 Apollos are here with no point defense drones. These Tangos are going to have a little bit of trouble breaking them. 2 Tangos do end up going down. 3 do get eliminated. The 4th one almost goes down as well, but he is able to secure that oil derrick. It's small victories where he can find them, not big victories. Losing all of those Tangos was certainly a mistake. And certainly running away with the extra Apollos that Tony was able to just get away with is so nice. Sniping down a couple of tank busters, a way to get some solid value out of that Vindicator. Tony started to carve away at some of the forces of his opponent, starting to just equalize the army up a little bit. But Tony is still stuck, or at least he was, on a largely aircraft-based composition. And as the game goes longer, as the Empire player starts to have more options at their availability, like, for example, the Tengu Striker combo to deal with aircraft, it becomes harder and harder to stay on basically only aircraft as an Allied player. You have to have really nice control, really crazy good finesse with those units to keep them alive against the, once the Tengu VX combo gets up to a beefy amount of units, it can be really hard to keep them alive, to keep your aircraft alive as the Allied player. Once point defense drones actually starts getting mixed in, especially. Now in the southern position, tank busters mixed in, only 2 of them into this attacking force. There's a couple of Imperial Warriors. They're not going to be doing all that much. There's the split away. The Vindicators, just enough DPS to lock everything down. And yes, even that tank buster, or rather that Imperial Warrior, will eventually get eliminated. But there's going to be the split forward away from that cryo shot, as these infantry are going to get absolutely trashed and crushed by that Prospector. Tsunami Tank's tanking a lot of damage, moving in here for the kill on that Prospector, trying to get to the other side of that building, trying to get to the safe side, as Cryocopter's now going to be coming in for support. Goodbye, Tsunami Tank. Jeromo donating away, sacrificing away too many units, I should think. He does get a Vindicator. He loses another Striker VX for it, though. The cost trading is pretty extreme here as the Apollos clear the skies, clearing up another Striker VX as well. And the Striker VX is on the ground, shrunk. Just do not have nearly enough DPS to really deal with those Cryocopters, considering how beefy Cryocopters already are. And against shrunk down units that have that reduced DPS, they're even beefier. Well, those Riptides basically paying for themselves. Not exactly, but almost exactly paying for themselves. I guess if you count lost mining time, those Riptides did indeed pay for themselves. Going down to the Tsunami Tank is actually all right. It's not the end of the world there, as another Tengu ends up going down, and everything from Jeromo is starting to get locked away. It's starting to get frozen down and eliminated by the allied forces of Tony. He needs to strike back. Jeromo needs some winning engagements or to gain some sort of huge economic advantage. And neither one of those things is easy to do at this stage. Does he have an engineer out? I'm not actually sure why he decided to move away from that. I guess he wants to let his infantry deal with it or something. Point dispense drones fires off, but really it's only 2 units. There isn't the army value here for Jeromo. He's traded away too many units. They've been eliminated too many times by Tony. And Tony's allied place is seemingly powerful enough to defeat Jeromo. Jeromo may be just a little bit too rusty, but it's always not over until it's over. As Jeromo is going to be forced to be pushed back, Tony, he's up to that 4 refinery. He's been like that for a little while. Could end up going to Tier 3. Could end up going into the artillery phase of the game. Forcing out engagements using Athena cannons, Mirage tanks, and of course Cryogeddon as we get to the late game support powers. He could use those all of those options to really push himself into a game-winning advantage. Still no 4th refinery. The oil derricks have long since been cleaned up. At least the one on the north has been long since cleaned up. The one on the south more recently being destroyed. But even if Jeromo had those oil derricks, it would actually be a really nice thing if he did. I don't know if it would be enough to, just straight up win the game, but it certainly would be enough to put him in a position. Now, multi-gunner turret starting to do that bit of damage. It really just forces the Tsunami Tank to the other side of the base. You more of need, like, either Cryocopters or a Vindicator or 2 to come over here to deal with that Tsunami Tank. Hey, he takes down at least 1 Tengu. Not sure what that was. I guess a Striker VX as well. Wow, if that one IFV got a Striker VX and a Tengu, that's a big deal. Now, Jeromo shutting down the economy of his opponent is important. If he could take out those power plants, that would really just hamstring for a short while Tony. It would cut his production in half and open up more opportunities for Jeromo to do damage. But again, these aren't necessarily the game-winning moves that Jeromo needs. Although this Tsunami Tank actually kills off this refinery, that would be a huge oversight from Tony. He's got Cryocopters. He's got aircraft options to respond to this Tsunami Tank. And actually killing off a veteran Tsunami Tank, or rather an elite Tsunami Tank, is a good way to rank up your Vindicator. Getting himself a veteran status, he's going to be doing a little bit better with that Vindicator. If he can get it all the way to Heroic, that thing will be so incredibly powerful. Now, Jeromo has bought time. He's bought time for the Engineer and the Sudden Transport. These are the power plays, these are the miracle moves that Jeromo needs to really take the win in this game. Now, Tony has spotted this force in the middle. Does he have a Cryo Shot, Cryo Blast, or Cryogeddon ready to go? Potentially, he'll be able to lock down this engagement with no problem if he's able to fire off one of those options. Keep an eye on this Sudden Transport. If it grabs the MCV, that could be a huge deal, locking down all of the tech options for our allied player. No, it's not game-winning because the Cryocopters are here. Thank you for Tony paying attention, because he will not be losing in that fashion. That MCV going down could have been the stroke of miracle that Jeromo needed. Now Jeromo is basically relegated for the remainder of his game life in this match to be on 3 refinery. He will almost never go anywhere past that. He doesn't actually have infantry either to beef out his army either. That could be a dangerous situation. Infantry, of course, they don't do very well against cryocopters, but they can really fill out the army, fill out your DPS and your counter system just to give you that extra bit of damage. Well, that Vindicator was a complete waste, but Tony has a bit of cash to spare as long as he doesn't throw away this engagement with mind-blowing throws. He's going to be fine. Carving away at the aircraft units of his opponent, forcing an engagement in this choke where potentially Cryoblast will be firing off in a few moments. I'm actually surprised we've seen a distinct lack of those support power uses from Tony. He does fire it off right there. With his cryocopter support, he's going to be able to lock down that ore refinery without too much trouble, but the Guardian tanks are starting to be taken out. They're extremely low on HP. Sniping down that refinery is like a long-term move for Tony, so even if he ends up losing this engagement, which he is not, he could continue on into the next couple of minutes of this game, but Jeromo will be defeated. Jeromo will drop the first game in this best of 3. He's not out of it. Of course, he still has an opportunity to come back in the series. He still has an opportunity to adjust to Tony and kind of match up against Tony's playstyle and Tony's power. But so far, Tony, with, I don't know if they're straight-up upsets. They feel like upsets. But Tony obviously showing that he can play, with the bigger boys. Welcome to Cabana Republic. Spawning on the right side, up 1-0 in this best of 3 series. He made top 4 of the winner's bracket, but can he go further? From Team H2O, this is Tony! And on the left side, our Purple Empire player. It's his map choice. He is down 0-1. He needs your cheers to make it through. This is the Empire hope for this series. This is from teammates Jeromo. He does have a tall order, a 2-0. He can't make mistakes if he wants to advance on in the winner's bracket. Tony opens up with the racks into Power Plant Refinery. I guess it was, huh. I don't think I've ever seen this before. Is this like the allied equivalent of trying to do like a crane base push? Like, because Soviets, you can drop down the crane and then you still have that build queue in your main base while you get the build radius from your MCV that moves across the map. Tony, on the other hand, wow. I don't know that I've ever actually seen this. Now, Jeromo, what is his options? What are his options, rather? He went double refinery. Of course, he's not walling off just yet. He's going to be more looking to protect against that, like, aircraft play. He's not really expecting Riptide play. He goes into a docks. The third refinery coming up rather quickly for Tony. And, of course, with burst drones, you can scout pretty much the whole map. Easy peasy. So he's going into the docks. He's sending it actually a pretty far distance away. And he's not actually producing anything with this mecha bay. So Jeromo being careful. Very careful with where he's spending his money and how he's spending it. Dojo Core, I think, a little bit too far away to try to go for the crush. Potentially could end up crushing a couple of those Peacekeepers. Will be kind of dancing right on the edge. Oh, won't quite be able to take them by surprise. Jeromo almost hiding the dock down here. Looking to keep it away from the eyes of his opponent just that much longer. Into an immediate airfield. This is not an expand play at all. I mean, I'm assuming he's going to be following it up with a third refinery relatively quickly. There we go. Weird. Very weird. Maybe this is meta, and I just have never seen it before. Of course, I don't actually play Red Alert 3 very much, but I do love watching and casting games from it. So, definitely something new for me. And Tony, will he be able to power this into a win? Very possibly. For now, though, it, of course, has been definitely spotted. If Jeromo didn't spot it before, he for sure has seen it now. Apollo and the Vindicator. Oh, he lost a Tengu, which is why he says F there in the chat. He's not too happy about that, and of course, air superiority being very important in this matchup. The Tengu Cloud versus the, Cryocopter Cloud. Both are very important. Yari Minisub going to be coming in here. Now, you have to keep in mind, if you trade away too many of these Yari Minisubs, like more than one, then your harassment isn't really worth it unless you actually take out the refinery. This could be an incredible move here by Jeromo. If he takes out this refinery with these two Yari Minisubs, absolutely worth it, absolutely paid for themselves. Now, actually, this ore refinery had not paid for itself. It was 750 credits short of it paying for itself, so he didn't actually get enough value out of that refinery to be worth it. Now, Jeromo... Oh no, that's just Tengus. I was like, did he really send a power plant up there? But no, he indeed did not. This is just a couple of Tengus. He's hiding them. Not sure exactly why. Hiding them from the Apollos, that's why. Until they have point defense drones, they can't really contend with those numbers. Potentially, if they took the Apollos by surprise, or the Apollos weren't really microed at all, then potentially the Tengus could end up winning there. But those weird scenarios aside, where the 4 Tengus just like beat the 3 Apollos, you're not gonna want to engage like that. Third refinery going to be eventually coming up for Jeromo. Oh, the joys of having multi-gunner turrets. You think you're safe because you've got them somewhere, and then the Yari Minisub just goes to the other side and starts shooting the building itself. And that is just no fun. Oh, and now the Prospector is on the wrong side. It's not actually going to be protected where it is right now. I guess it'll be protected a little bit here by the Peacekeepers, but really, that's not necessarily what you want. Oh, snipes down a Harvester. A nice move there, as that Harvester will be forced to be rebuilt. And even, it probably won't even get a chance. Wow. These Yari Minisubs, absolute value. 2 refineries, one being forced to be sold off, the other one completely sniped there by that Yari Minisub. Great value for Jeromo. Great value. Gets an elite Yari Minisub out of it as well. Really, really nice moves there for Jeromo. The Conyard up in the north, potentially a little bit exposed. Tengu's being split off for the harass. I'm not actually sure if... I would assume Tier 2 has been purchased. Yes, it has indeed. As the first striker pops on out, gets a couple of shots off on that Vindicator. And CCZD Tony should know that Tier 2 has been purchased. He should know what the status is of the Empire tech. 4th refinery coming up relatively shortly for Jeromo. He's going to be at a nice economic advantage. As, he already is at that economic advantage. Well, I guess not now that refinery has been established. I'm not actually sure what he's talking about. I'm not sure what went down right there. Unfortunately for Jeromo, he's having some mistakes this game. He's having some problems this game. And that Harvester, for now, it will escape. Tony has been able to keep alive one of his Harvester, the other one forced to build it into a command post. Will be able to get or a command hub rather, will be able to get a little bit of value out of it when he sells it. Oh, the Tengu. Can it crash down? Oh, it might actually crash down onto the Harvester. Yes, he gets it. Value is the name of the game, and Jeromo is playing that game with Yari Minisubs, with Tengus, with all of his Empire toys. 4th refinery up and running. 2 refineries are actually active for Tony. He tried to hold position on that Harvester to tell it to stop, to save its life, but it wasn't enough. Uh-oh, Jeromo is actually going to be probably losing this Harvester. It does get frozen, does get destroyed. Tsunami tank starting to be pumped out here for our Empire player. Ooh. Bit of a mistake there, trading that away for really no reason at all. Could have potentially kited around the map, skirted the map rather, and looked for some openings. Didn't necessarily need to sacrifice away that Yari Minisub. Apollo's going to be taking their seats in the airbase. Tsunami tanks leading the charge. They do need to watch out for some potential really powerful infantry plays, but there's going to be the nano deflectors charging forward. Tsunami tank getting pulled back, will be able to escape without too much damage. Vindicator's taking a lot of damage. A couple more shots will finish them off, but they are trying to focus down the Apollos as the multi-gunner turret does pop on up. Goodbye, number 1 Vindicator. There's not a whole lot of heavy anti-ground DPS in the army for Tony. He does have the multi-gunner turret, which is his advantage. But are we going to see artillery eventually be pumped out for Jeromo? He's actually going engineer. Going to capture his opponent's oil derrick. Nice move there. Doesn't sell off his MCV, though. That's not what that engineer is from. He just constructed the engineer. No problem. Tank heading up to the high ground for the harass. Tsunami tanks, 3 of them on the front lines, more and more streaming out across the map. Jeromo going to be mixing in more tank busters into his army comp, just allowing him to do insane amounts of DPS if controlled properly. And he charges forward. He is going to be able to get the majority of those javelin troopers. He gets them all. The one that just got produced, he's definitely going to be scared for his life. Jeromo going to be grabbing that oil derrick, harassing on the right side at the same time. 2 multi-gunner turrets. That is a lot of investment to keep this one refinery up and running. I mean, if you count in the multi-gunner turrets, that's 3,600 credits that have been spent on that refinery, and it's hardly even harvested that much more than that. It has paid for itself, but that's a lot of cash invested into those static defenses, which when the power goes offline, it won't actually help you, as this Tsunami tank now has free reign in the north. Should go ahead and just start poking away at that power plant as well. Really cement that low power mode for Tony. Really force Tony into that awkward situation of having doubled production times. Jeromo starting to pick Tony apart. He dropped the first game, but now Tony doesn't quite have the tricks on Cabana Republic to stay ahead and to really contend with Jeromo. As Jeromo is starting to, again, just pick him apart, methodically tear him down, but it's not over till it's over. Tony always has the shot at the comeback. He's going to be losing his MCV. He's going to be losing his refinery. He's going to be forced to sell off those multi-gunner turrets, which is, almost as bad. But he drops down a power plant, an additional multi-gunner turret, but packs up his MCV, putting him once again very close to that low power mode. If he can get the crush, if he can deny the damage output from these tank busters, he would be in a great position. He's going to be moving forward. Jeromo is paying too much attention on the third front, though. The cryocopter is going to be dealing with that Striker VX and now into the lower power mode as that power plant goes down. The MCV going to be getting absolutely eliminated here. Jeromo is going to be in such an incredibly powerful position to take this game, to even the score up 1-1, to take us to the ace match of this best of 3 for the top 4 of the winner's bracket of For the Win number 30. Everything is going south for Tony. He doesn't have the electricity to run all of his base defenses and his production structures. He's going to be forced to sell them off. They're not doing him any good anyways. With no MCV, he can't actually rebuild any of that stuff. He may not actually have... Oh, he doesn't even have a nail yard. Yeah, those base defenses are 200% useless right now. He can still tech up. He can potentially go back. Oh, no, it looks like he's already up to tier 2. So he could potentially go tier 3 if he really wanted to. Not that he actually can sustain that kind of production. Tony, he's sticking around in the game. Jeromo takes a 5th refinery. Really just cementing his lead. Of course, the philosophy, hey, if you're ahead, you should probably get further ahead by expanding, by playing more economic focused, by getting more of an advantage in the macro side of things. One Tengu goes down. The cryocopter's still standing strong, as actually a lot of these units getting torn down, getting frozen, and eliminated as the cryocopters clean up the anti-air. There's really just ground-based units left on the map here for Jeromo, but he's got 5 refineries that he can power on through with. That's a sudden transport. That's not actually a prospector. Goodbye, refinery. It goes down in a fiery blaze of glory as Tony... Well, he lost so many refineries that his power plants now have enough juice to send it all the way to those multi-gunner turrets. Jeromo has lost a lot of his structures, a lot of his units. He's lost pretty much his entire standing army. But if he cannot macro up an army to match that of Tony, I would be very surprised. Like, just shift-click Tengus. That's almost the only thing he needs to do. He's adding on a second Mecha Bay, which is a good move. He's going to need the extra production to spend all of the cash he's got. And, again, Jeromo just continuing to push further and further ahead. I mean, Tony does indeed have the oil derrick, so he's got that going for him. It's literally 1 refinery allies versus 5 refinery empire. If you GG out right now, I will be very surprised. He's still got 30,000 credits on his main base ore refineries, ore mines rather. 20,000 credits up here. He's got an insane amount of units that he can construct with just those 3 refineries alone. And then he's got 2 more refineries over there. He can, of course, take this one over here with relative ease. He can basically surround Tony with refineries. Jeromo playing this out so well, taking really stellar engagements until that last one. But even that one cleaned up both of the refineries, and that was one of those situations where it's like, okay, I traded out my standing army, but now you have almost literally no income. You have such limited economy for the remainder of this game. I killed your MCV. I killed 3 of your refineries. And yeah, I traded out my army, but I can macro back up an army. And Jeromo doesn't have to win the game at that point. I mean, like you're seeing now, he just sat back. He didn't even have to defend because there were no attacks coming at him, but both players just sort of sat back. We're like, all right, we both need to kind of recover, regroup, recoup. And that's going to be favoring Jeromo with superior production, with superior economy. It's going to be favoring him in practically every way. Tengu's swinging around. Can they get a good angle on these cryocopters? It would be a fantastic way to start this engagement off. The final engagement of this game, most likely, as the Vindicator goes down, it will be crashing onto the ground. The Apollos get some nice shots off, but that is not the only part of this army that he has to worry about. Tony has to tear through not only the Tsunami tank, but the Striker VXs as well, and he has to deal with Jeromo, who can, of course, transform his Tengus down onto the ground to help him deal with the infantry as a cryocopter goes down. The infantry standing strong. They're making good use of these civilian structures to fortify this position, to add that extra bit of armor, and that, well, they can't be crushed when inside of the buildings. That's another advantage that he's got. A naval yard over here, because why not? But Yuriko Omega is out on the field. Jeromo, is this the nail in the coffin? He's got such an incredible amount of DPS in this army. Emperor's Rage fires off, and Tony rushes into his doom, to his death. The cryocopters focused down instantaneously, absolutely destroyed. Yuriko Omega gets sniped apparently there, but that was it. Tony got Yuriko Omega. The rest of the army completely unmatched. No answer is there. And Tony drops game number 2. But now it's 1-1 between Jeromo and Tony. These two guys showing some really fun games. Cabana Republic, very interesting match on there. But will Tony immediately go back into Snowplow? Let's find out. Welcome to game number 3. This, on the right side, is the man who's surprising quite a few of us. This is from Team H2O, the blue allied player, Tony. And on the left side, our purple Empire from Teammates. He is back in action, showing us some solid Empire play. This is Jeromo. Triple dojo opener. Standard as it gets. Fast 3 refineries? Huh. Not the refinery position I would expect from an Empire player. Riptides can really, really do some serious damage out here if you are not careful. Dog comes in for the scout. He's like, okay. That's weird. But of course, camping out your dog on top of the place, it's not like doing that to an allied or a Soviet player. The core can just run the dog over and then expand there. Easy peasy, no problem. It's 1-1. This best of 3 will be decided with this final game. Who will be going on to the next round of this tournament? Who will be going on to the winners bracket finals best of 5? Some serious potential for an incredible last couple of series here in this tournament. We have got some great play already today, and we've still got some great matches still to be played. Oil Derrick getting targeted down. Naval Yard, a couple of Riptides being pumped out for Tony. Imperial Warrior going for the scout. We'll be able to get past those first units of Tony's. Look at that Imperial Warrior. He was a hero, and now he's dead. Riptide being a little bit sneaky. Could be going directly here. Could be potentially packed in with some Javelin Troopers to try to hit here. Snipe down a refinery. Either way, this is a lot of forces. This MCV being packed in as well. Lots of tanking ability, lots of potential crushing ability for our Empire force. He does not want to play Imperial. He does not want to play Infinity Isle in the long game. He wants it to end here and now. He wants it to be finished very soon. But can he finish it off? There are the Javelin Troopers. Potentially, it's going to be just absolutely shutting them down. Yes, one of them does go down. The second one won't be eliminated. It does take a fair bit of damage, but it is still alive. It's a Harvester for a Harvester. Both players trading relatively equally. There's the sell-off of the refinery. Will Jeromo do the same? The answer so far is no. But the Harvesters did both go down. They did not kill the refinery, and that is the most important part of this. Because if those refineries survive, that is the comeback potential for Jeromo. Now, Jeromo does have the majority of his DPS in the infantry, and they may end up getting crushed here. He can lose Imperial Warriors. He can't really afford to lose the Tank Busters as they're hiding behind the MCV. They're trying to get those good angles. They need to be kiting back. They need to be pulling back. Both players need to micro their hearts out as they need to put out as much DPS with their units and lose as few as possible. The splits are good enough. Goodbye one Tank Buster as Jeromo makes a mistake. There's the Javelin Troopers locking on. This MCV is going to get shredded if it stands in this position for too much longer. 3 of the Javelin Troopers go down the multi-gunner turret, putting out continual DPS on that MCV. The majority of the Empire infantry have been pretty much all cleaned up. The Empire MCV trying to get out of the range of that multi-gunner turret, but this one Javelin Trooper will be enough DPS to absolutely destroy it. Tony could end up winning by the skin of his teeth, but it's not over yet. Jeromo has the opportunity to crush back forward. He's running for the water, but if he goes out on the water, Riptide torpedoes will suddenly be a lot more effective. Is he going to sell off? The cashback would be nice, but it's not much at this point. It's almost nothing. He can't do anything. He packs back up. He's trying to just buy as much time as possible. Going out onto the water isn't an option. He'll die there as well. He dies no matter what. And goodbye, MCV. Handing away instant heroic status to that Riptide. Jeromo, things aren't done, but they are so close. He's got the Mecha Bay in the middle of the map. That's what's going to keep him in this game. He got it up to tier 2. He bought enough time. That's all he needed to do was buy time. His MCV tactic may have worked, and now he does have the shot, but it's still going to be hard. Tony has the advantage of throwing down potential base defenses. He's still got that refinery up and operational, but if he loses these power plants, it could be lights out in every way. No! No! Oh, Jeromo! If he loses, it may not even be his fault, as his Harvester is refusing to work. He's on strike. The unions are too powerful, and now that Harvester is not going back to work. No! Jeromo has yielded. The workers have won, and they got the benefits that they needed. They've gone back to work. Jeromo narrowly missing out on an opportunity to throw this game away through no fault of his own. But that Harvester is back operational. It's working. It's cranking away. Oh, that was a very, very dangerous moment there for Jeromo. Again, anytime you see stuff like that, it's such a shame when that's the story of the game, that someone just lost a game because of some dumb bug, or someone, was put in a bad situation, no fault of their own. Dogs split between the north and the south. Those aren't Riptides with potential damage output. But Javelin Troopers right here on the front line could be insane amounts of damage on this Mecha Bay. The pullback of that Tsunami Tank. Oh no, this one's trapped right in the front. Can he get the crushes? The Nano Deflector's activated. The speed boost is good, but it's not great. The jump back into that Riptide isn't good enough to save all of the Javelin Troopers. The Tsunami Tank explodes, taking a couple of the Javelin Troopers down. The units are so limited for each of these guys. He's trying to make what use that he can of that remaining speed boost, but the Vindicator will likely be back in a couple of more moments to come in for another bombing run as the Javelin Troopers pop back out. They trade out the very, very weak Riptide for the much stronger, heroic one, but Jeromo's just trying to clean up as many of these units as he can, and surrounding that Tengu is not necessarily a great idea as the Tsunami Tank does survive with hardly a pixel of health. It goes down at the last moment there, but Jeromo has survived. He has held on. He has stood his ground, as the airfield is pretty much the only production structure for Tony. This refinery, also one of the few things keeping him in this game. He's almost to the point where he needs to start selling off these walls just for anything at all. He's going in with his dogs. He needs to know, how badly hurting is my opponent? Am I in a winning situation? Or is he in as bad of a situation as I am? This Apollo should give him incredible range and vision on that. The dog will also be scouting out, what's the status of my opponent? Can I win this game? Or is it just not even worth it? This Striker going to be putting out some nice DPS on the Apollo, forcing it to retreat. Tony has to be careful. Every unit is so important. Every interaction is imperative that the players are paying the exact amount of attention that they need to be. Mistakes are deadly. The loser's bracket is not a friendly place, and you're one step closer to that elimination. One step further away from any sort of accolades. The Tsunami Tank heads forward, activates some Nano Deflectors after getting a couple of shots off on that Carnyard, eating away at that health of the Carnyard. If he survives, then yeah, it's worth it. Free damage in this stage of the game, in this weird, wonky game, it's pretty much always worth it. Cryo shot firing off. It's not going to really do anything. Jeromo was paying attention. Those are the moves that he has to make. He always has to be present. He always has to be paying attention. And now with this armada, this blockade of anti-air, this Apollo is going to have a hard time breaking this position. The Vindicator, can he actually do any real damage? This Tsunami Tank may be just low enough on HP to go down. The transform is perfect. Jeromo forced Tony to waste bombs. He forced Tony to waste an entire Vindicator. And Jeromo will pull back, forcing the MCV back. And this game is so close. Is the transform going to happen? No. He cleans up a Tengu. Nice move from Jeromo. He still is not out of the woods yet. Neither one of these guys is in a really good situation. Neither one of these guys can breathe easy or sit comfortably in their chair at home. They can't relax on their keyboard. They have to keep it up. They have to keep their mind cranking. How do they win? Tony may need to play defensive. He can't quite contend with 3 Striker VXs once they transform. It's an instant death for that Riptide. The dog running around, trying to find some angle, some weakness, something that can be exploited. This power plant would be a nice move to strike down if he at all could. Shutting down that power plant, doubling production times, if that would have happened 1-2 minutes ago, would have been devastating to Jeromo. It doesn't matter if he's got money if he can't spend it fast enough. And of course, eventually, if this game went on long enough, potentially, Jeromo could rebuild that MCV. I'm not saying it will happen. I'm saying it's technically possible. Vindicator's going to be coming in. They drop their bombs. They clean up the Tengu. He needs some breathing room for his Javelin Troopers to do the damage, and the anti-infantry DPS of that Tengu is very important. Both of the Vindicators go down. They sacrifice themselves, and they didn't necessarily do all of the damage that they needed. 3 Striker VXs are still here. One of them could be transformed to help him deal with this Riptide. More and more units being pumped out for Jeromo. Tony is in dire straits, but can he hold on? Oh, if he strikes down this Mecha Bay, it's a huge move in the right direction. No, the Micro is good enough to save those Javelin Troopers. The extremely weak one, it gets ejected into the front. but he doesn't actually go down. The tsunami tank isn't actually close enough. No, the MCV gets sold off, and now suddenly a completely exposed prospector can be closed down, can be killed off by Jeromo. The engineer gets pulled over to the airfield, but he can't really do anything with it. Goodbye, Harvester. Tony will most likely be falling to the loser's bracket. He's got a barracks. He's got an airfield. He can't rebuild anything. He might be forced to sell this off. I don't know if one power plant might be just enough to power all of these structures, but that extra 400 credits from that power plant out on the water being sold off would be just a little bit of a cash boost. I'm not saying it would be enough for him to win, but it would be a bit of a cash boost. This engineer, he's going to be potentially trying something sneaky, heading potentially around the north side of the map, trying to go the long route out on the water, trying to go for a very sneaky capture. Any of these structures would be a good choice. It's one of those things that you hope against hope. It's almost a miracle move. It's almost not going to happen just because it's not very likely. But Jeromo, he's put on just enough pressure to basically seal the deal, to secure Tony's fate, but he hasn't done it yet. Until that victory sign waves for Jeromo, until Tony types the GG and leaves the game, it's not over. He's literally selling off those wall segments. Everything that can go is going. That is the attitude of Tony. He needs to hold on. He needs to buy time. He needs to just keep his hopes alive and pull out a miracle. That's it, folks. He just needs a miracle. And unfortunately, there's not like a 1-800 you can call. 1-800 number you can call. Miracles Are Us is not a store. And Tony, that's what he needs. Jeromo has masterfully crafted out for himself in this game an incredible game-winning advantage that he only has to take. He's going to be looking for the weakest angle of Tony's. He's going to be looking for the most opportune way to take this engagement away from the multi-gunner turret. That's the one point of strength that Tony has. The Vindicator comes in, sacrifices itself. Goodbye, one tsunami tank. The splits, they don't even need to exist because that tsunami tank doesn't really go for any crushes. Goodbye, infantry. Goodbye, even pretty much everything else for Tony. There's the sell-off. No GG. There's the GG. Goodbye. Good game. Jeromo will advance on to the finals to face Dimon in a best of 5. It's an EVS. Wow. That winner's bracket final. What a crazy cool event that we have here for the win number 30 going so well, but not for Tony. He has a shot at redemption. He has that shot at the loser's bracket. He can make the comeback. He can make it happen. Let's see if he does. But for now, it's into the winner's bracket finals, best of 5. Don't go anywhere, folks. We're heading right there. Welcome to Island Arena, the loser's bracket round 4, and spawning on the left side as the red Soviet player, he is indeed from Teammates. This is Andrei. And on the right side, as our blue allied player hailing from China and YZZD, this is PK. He was a finalist of the New Year's New Maps tournament. He wasn't quite able to make it happen in that event, but he may be able to do even better here. Ended up losing out to Happy from NACL. So YZZD not quite taking any big tournament wins just yet, but potentially this is his chance. This is his shot to represent China. And of course, we're always glad to have these guys jump over onto the CNC online server. It is a bit troublesome for them. They do tend to have connection problems and more issues than some of the European, American, or even Australian or, other Asian players. They just tend to have more problems, unfortunately. Dog coming in for the full scout off with PK. He's going to be getting eyes on that. Of course, the garage on this map, there are 2 of them out there. We'll see if the lag ends up clearing up. Sometimes it only affects me, and sometimes it does end up affecting the players, but we shall see. Peacekeeper going to be coming in to clean, well, not to clean up anything, but will be getting eyes on that sickle, will be scouting that. And of course, anytime you play up against random, because Andrew was random, you always got to wonder, how exactly should I open? How exactly should I decide to play this out? Andrew completely ignoring the garage, which, considering he's going aggressive with vehicles, is kind of a surprise. A lot of the times you will see players go for that garage to make use of more aggressive early game vehicle-based play. In this case, not so much. Not so much from Andrew. He's just going to be pushing the issue, doing a little bit of damage with his sickles, pushing forward. Not really able to do all that much just yet. Peacekeeper's moving in for PK to try to assist him in this attack. Of course, his Harvester is going to be getting that constant heal. And those Vindicators taking so much damage. 3 Bullfrogs just pumping crazy amounts of DPS out onto those Vindicators, forcing them to run all the way down into the southern part of the map, trying to pull the Bullfrogs out of position so that they can come in at a different angle and actually secure that landing zone, secure themselves some repairs. Well, we're going to watch this Vindicator get trashed. No! His buddy will actually be tanking the shots for him. They pull over to the left side. They are going to be able to escape from those Bullfrogs for now. 1 Harvester going down. PK just doesn't have the units to deal with these sickles until his Vindicators actually get some sort of refueling in. Now, the nice thing for PK is that his Harvesters are going to be lasting so much longer than they otherwise would because they've got those heals going on. Multi-gunner turret does get established. 1 of the Bullfrogs does get eliminated. The other Bullfrogs are still trying to look for those targets, trying to find those good angles on these Vindicators to clean them out, to take them down, and so that they can actually... Oh, I think this is going to be it. Oh, my word. Courting death and escaping every time. He is so close to going down, and somehow PK manages to keep alive those Vindicators from just within, like, inches of that Bullfrog range. Bullfrogs have pretty good range, and it's sometimes surprising how far they can shoot, but in this case, they're just staying alive against almost all odds. Can they actually get in? Of course, he has to be very careful. The landing sequence, they can still take damage, but the multi-gunner turrets push the Bullfrogs away, eliminate them both, and now all 3 Bullfrogs are gone. The anti-air has been eliminated. Now, on the back end of this, of course, Andrew has been able to expand out to a 3rd refinery and shut down both of the main base refineries of his opponent. So that's a huge victory for Andrew. He's in an incredible position for the remainder of this game, as both of the sickles will be getting, well, taking some damage. One of them goes down. The other one doesn't quite have, isn't quite low enough on life for 1 Vindicator to clean it up. He will actually continue on the harassing run. Of course, this Harvester will be able to heal up. No problem at all. Goodbye. Sickle will go down right there. And Bullfrog's going to be moving out across the map. Peacekeeper going in for a little bit of a pressure there. A little bit of a damage output on that refinery. Nothing too big to worry about at all. Continuing to stick with this airfield play, it can get very dangerous. Honestly, just transitioning into even IFVs would really help him in this situation. Maybe not the best choice, as getting to Guardian tanks would be much better. But if he starts mixing in some of those ground units, then suddenly he isn't as hamstrung by this Bullfrog, by these Bullfrogs. Twin Blade being mixed in, going to be forcing some Apollos or some sort of anti-air measure, and it could actually have a terror drone inside of it. I guess it doesn't actually. Sometimes players will drop flak troopers or terror drones to get the infect on a Harvester, get a faster kill, and then move on to another Harvester with their Twin Blade to actually do damage in 2 areas at once. Javelin Trooper is going to be getting some damage output on this Twin Blade, forcing it to run to the other side, forcing it to run away, as this Harvester is taking quite a bit of damage. Eventually, it may go down there, and really, it is going to be a double benefit for Andrew as he gets 250 credits from killing it. Oh, if he loses that Twin Blade, it's not actually going to be worth it. Actually, it'll be slightly worth it. by approximately 50 credits, not counting lost mining time. Bullfrogs will take a little bit of damage from those Javelin Troopers. Shouldn't be taken out, though. Should be able to escape on away. And, of course, Andrew, he can afford to lose a couple of units here and there. He does have that 4 refinery setup against just the 2 refineries of his opponent. And eventually, if this continues, Andrew should just be able to overwhelm his opponent with sheer numbers, sheer macro, sheer forces, and then body count more than anything. Play up that Soviet style and just build a lot of things, eventually transitioning into that Tier 3. Desolator airstrike does come down. The Badger Bomber dropping those toxins immediately onto the barracks. Going to be shutting down any of the any production from there. GG comes down. PK will be taking the honorable loss there. Not going to be dragging the game out too much longer. And that will do it for game number 1 of the Losers Bracket Round 4 between PK and Andrew. This is a best of 3, so they both do have an opportunity to mess things up or seal the deal with a quick 2-0 from Andrew, or the reverse comeback 2-1 for PK. But let's go into the next game. Welcome to Battle Base Delta. And spawning on the left side as the Blue Allies from Team YZZD. He needs your cheers. He's down 0-1. This is PK. And in the top right corner from Teammates as the Red Empire player, this is Andrew. Now, it's interesting because both of these guys went random, but PK ended up getting his primary faction. Now, Andrew is also an allied player, so I would expect his Empire play would not be quite as strong as if he would have gotten allies. But we shall see. Maybe it will be just as strong. Maybe he's been playing a lot of random lately, but I don't know about that. However, airfield first. Potentially some sort of cryocopter cheese. It does get scouted by the burst drone, and both of these guys are now aware of what the faction situation is. They're going to know what is going on, and they are going to have a pretty good idea of how to proceed with the next couple of minutes of this game. And, of course, Andrew is going to be like, oh, really? YZZD PK is just looking for the openings. He's looking for the engineers, but unfortunately for him, he's just not finding them. I guess he didn't quite want to... Wait, is he going to be going into Tier 2? No, he's going into another refinery. Packing up his MCV. So, no, this is not a cryocopter cheese. It's just fast airfield. He was just hoping to shut down the engineers and put on a bit of pressure that way, but in this case, he's not really going to be able to do that because there's no engineers out on the map for Andrew. Once he identified that, he was just like, oh, okay, easy peasy, I just won't build engineers and I'll be good to go. Burst drone does get killed off there. One power plant does get eliminated, but he trades it out for a Vindicator. A little bit of a problem there. Unfortunately, the Vindicator going down means that that wasn't really worth it for Andrew. A little bit troublesome there. Or, excuse me, it wasn't really worth it for PK. Andrew, it was worth it. Unfortunately for Andrew, his Imperial Warriors just cannot bust through those walls. They cannot break them down to do any damage to that airfield. And of course, PK, that's the reason why he walled in all of his structures to be safe against those Imperial Warriors and force his opponent to bring on some tank busters to knock down those walls. And actually, it's going to be, wow, triple dojo follow-up from Andrew. He is looking to just put out a lot of... Wow. This is like a pretty BM way of destroying walls. I'm guessing he's just like, yep, this is how I'm going to do it. I'm not going to build actually units and target down the walls. Nope. Instead, I'm going to make my units, kill my units, and use the splash damage to take down the walls. That just seems like a BM move. But in this case, it's going to work. He's going to be targeting down that airfield. He will be able to eliminate it without too much trouble, forcing PK over to the right side of the map, forcing that MCV to run away and get on out of there. And the airfield goes down. Now, the economy has survived thus far, and of course the MCV has survived over here, which means all of these air units can have a safe place to land relatively soon. Not quite just this moment, but relatively soon. The oil refinery will now be targeted, and of course with the tank busters being mixed in, they've got so much more DPS to take down those structures. The airfield finally being reconstructed, but the economy is just going to be absolutely trashed. PK is going to be in a very difficult situation. He's not going to be able to really have the economic firepower to contend with his opponent's real firepower. He's not going to have that economic clout to really macro into the mid to late game, especially if he loses this second refinery as well, which he very well will. He probably will. I would be very surprised if Andrew just backed off right here, right now, and was like, nope, I guess I'm just going to leave. As long as there are tank busters in this army, this refinery can be taken out. Andrew grabs both of the oil derricks. The garage is not yet being captured by either player. Of course, with the openers, they didn't quite have the opportunity. Engineers just would have been too exposed. Killing the kind of the wrong wall segments there for Andrew. Now, Andrew does position a couple of his Imperial Warriors very close to be able to clean up that Peacekeeper without too much trouble, or at least force it into that Riot Shield mode where it won't actually be able to do any damage. Not sure what that was. It did get cleaned up, but the economy being destroyed. Oh, this Harvester could get some money shots off. No, it doesn't get any money crushes. And now down to just one refinery economy versus, well, not quite a 3 refinery economy, but a 2 refinery double oil derrick economy for our Empire player. Andrew is going to be looking at a relatively quick 2-0 if he can seal this out. He hasn't won just yet, but boy oh boy is he in a strong position. He needs a Mecha Bay, he needs some Tengus, and of course he could even just tech up relatively quickly to that tier 2, get on himself a nice Tengu striker composition, maybe mix in some tsunami tanks. Vindicators cleaning up that barracks, keeping the dojo from producing any units on the front lines. But there's a little bit of a path here over to this kind of right side location, this right side expansion for Andrew. He can run his units that way. We'll be meeting up on the ramp before his Tengus come over. A couple more Tengus going down, trying to carve away at the units of his opponent, but PK needs bigger victories than that. He needs... I mean, he's pretty much in the status where he needs a miracle. He needs his opponent to throw the game is what he needs. Andrew, I would like to see him take a 3rd, maybe a 4th refinery at some point, just to really, really cement his lead, to push him so far ahead economically that it's almost impossible for PK to come back. Of course, it's like never actually impossible, but it's like almost impossible. Imperial Warriors cleaning up the majority of the Peacekeepers. Of course, the Peacekeepers trying to clean up the Tank Busters so they can't actually do that nice anti-building DPS. They can't actually knock down the walls. But with Tengus here, the aircraft pretty much all useless now. The GG comes down from both players as Andrew will take the 2-0, the shutout against YZZD PK. And Andrew will indeed continue on to the next stage of the tournament. The next round of the losers bracket will be played out with another best of 3, but that will do it for that series. Congratulations to Andrew. Moving on. Better luck next time to PK. Thanks for playing, and thanks for bringing in some of that play. Welcome to Temple Prime Tournament Edition on the left side as the Red Soviets from Team NACL. This is GBHMichael. And on the right side, excuse me, he is Cosmo wrong. But on the right side, we do have as the purple allies, Fordel, Lols, as he is sometimes known, is going to be opening up. Uh-oh. For some reason, the scoreboard did not save. There we go. He is going to be opening up into a fast airfield, as you can see. Bear's going to be heading out, going for the scout, and at this point, GBHMichael, he hasn't seen anything from his opponent in terms of dogs, you know, by the halfway point on the map, and he's got to be wondering, wait a second, I don't see any burst drones, I don't see any dogs, what exactly are you doing? And of course, he will know that it's fast airfield. In this case, it's probably just to try to kill off an engineer, because sometimes players do just go for that engineer, and then you can snipe it down easy, and you can get kind of a little bit ahead that way, depending on, you know, how your opponent opened. Bears now going to be getting complete eyes on the base of GBHMichael, seeing everything that is going on. No real problems there. Immediately into War Factory, he needs the Bullfrogs. He needs to be able to deal with his opponent's units. MCV going to be packing up pretty darn quickly there for Dell. Could be heading up to the high ground for the center control, or could choose to go out to the water. Either one is an option. Vindicators dropping their bombs, of course, trying to get as much value from these Vindicators and this opener as possible. Conscript's going to be spreading out across the map. And this engineer will actually make it all the way to that oil derrick. The other engineer may have to hide himself inside of a structure. But with Bullfrogs now going to be out, the flak cannon also being constructed, GBHMichael will need to be a little bit careful with his units, make sure that he doesn't lose too many Bullfrogs to these Vindicators. And of course, with good control, many Vindicators won't go down just because you can rotate them out. Some of them can be getting repairs while the other ones are finishing their bombing runs. And you can keep the Bullfrog count for the first couple of minutes relatively low. And eliminating those extra couple of units can be pretty darn important in snowballing yourself into a pretty big advantage. Unfortunately for GBHMichael, didn't cancel that flak cannon, did let it finish and then had to sell it off. But he does have both of the oil derricks, which is a nice bit of an advantage. It's not huge, but certainly having those oil derricks, getting the $500 cash back on the engineer is very nice. Nice bomb splitting as well. Coming out from Fordell is going to be able to clean up pretty much all of those conscripts except for the one which managed to make it out alive. The MCV is all the way across the map on the quote-unquote wrong side of the map, the Cosmo wrong side of the map, as you could say. And he is going to be able to start that base push, start that turret push. And laser lock potentially down that War Factory. Power plants should be able to block it off for a little bit, but if he splits the two, well, if he splits the two Javelin Troopers, they'll just get sniped potentially by that sickle. But once you start dropping down a couple of Javelin Troopers, you can spread them out, and then one building won't block all of their laser targets. And that's one way that you can deal with that construction. But in this particular case, if you stack them too closely together, then they actually can be potentially blocked by one structure. Sickle may be forced to jump and land in the middle of these Javelin Trooper, cancels the barracks, rebuilds one of the power plants just to try to get break that laser lock and keep the War Factory alive. Of course, with the 2,000 credit investment, he would like to be able to keep his sickles pumping out. He would like to have some sort of units that can actually be produced, since he really doesn't have any production structures that are online. GBHMichael is being a bit torn apart by the multi-gunner turret, and well, no longer the Javelin Troopers, as they all do get eliminated. The Bears going in there, able to eliminate the majority of those Javelin Troopers. Sickles also putting out some DPS on those units, but the Vindicators come in. They have enough bombs to actually take down that War Factory, and now there are no more actual production structures left on the map. I guess you could count refineries, since technically they do produce units, but this barracks is like the one hope for GBHMichael. Fordell is going to be once again laser locking down these refineries. Repeated building blocks will be trying to keep GBHMichael alive as long as possible. Oh, Vindicators coming in, cleaning up every single Bullfrog. GG comes down, and GBHMichael will drop game number 1 of this best of 3 Fordell with some abusive allied play on Temple Prime Tournament Edition. Will be able to finish off GBHMichael in just 4.5 minutes. All right, guys, welcome to game number 2 between these fellows. Spawning on the right side of Island Arena, down 0-1. He needs your cheers. This is GBHMichael from NACL, and on the left side, it's Power Plant first. He's purple, he's allies, he does not want to lose. This is Fordell. He wants to follow up his For the Win number 29 tournament victory with a For the Win 30 tournament victory and really snowball out his accolades. Oh my word, he's literally going fast airfield 2 games in a row. GBHMichael, oh, he's actually expecting this. He's going 1 refinery into that War Factory, going to be dropping down the flak cannon as well. So he is actually going to be expecting the cryocopter cheese. Which I guess this may not be a cryocopter cheese. He could be... No, he's going into double refinery. Or no, that's his first refinery, excuse me. He's going into... He could potentially go into Tier 2 after this. We'll have to see. First Vindicator going to be making its way across the map. He sees absolutely no infantry. He's going to be like, oh, you didn't dump like several thousand credits into infantry? Well, I guess then maybe this didn't go as well as I had hoped. Flak Cannon technically still hasn't finished. It is not operational just yet. It's like almost 100 out of 100 as far as percentage goes, but it's like 99.99999% complete. And then he just cancels it. He gets out his 2 bullfrogs. His third one is almost out, and with like flawless control, these 3 bullfrogs can hold off a lot of Vindicators. Now with 3 bullfrogs already out on the field, 3 Vindicators won't be able to clean them up. And with, again, good control, these bullfrogs can kite away from these Vindicators and do a surprising amount of damage before the Vindicators are actually in range. It's going to be into the sickle. Now, eventually, I would expect GBHMichael to make use of one of the garages on this map, the MCV. It's on its way across the map. And that is exactly what Fordell is saying to GBHMichael. He's like, hey, guess what? I'm going to turret push you. I don't actually know if GBHMichael saw that MCV down in the south there. I'm not actually sure if he realizes that it is there. I think he does. He's going to load up his engineer into one of these bullfrogs. He doesn't want his opponent to actually see which one it is, but bullfrog getting dropped quite close to this MCV would be a good way to force it to pack up, to move to another location, canceling everything that is being constructed. And this is a nice power move here from GBHMichael. There is going to be the MCV pack up. There is going to be the Terror Drone immediately locking it down. And of course, as long as it's locked down, it's not going anywhere. He should probably infect it before the Vindicators actually get here, but if the Vindicators go for the Terror Drone, they're going to be sacrificing themselves against the Bullfrogs. 1 Bullfrog, 2 Bullfrogs do end up going down. The bomb splitting is, well, it's about as good as you can expect, but 1 Vindicator ends up getting eliminated. The Bullfrogs pull back away from that MCV. More Bullfrogs should be getting produced by GBHMichael. He's finally up to that 2 refinery. He is finally up to that economic advantage. He produces another Terror Drone. Keeping that Terror Drone number at least at 1 is incredibly useful. 2 would be nice in case one of them ends up going down. You can pull in a second one, but locking it down this MCV, stopping it from actually being able to go anywhere, whoa, is important. And actually, that Bullfrog did get crushed technically by the MCV, and the Bullfrogs do get eliminated as the 4th Vindicator comes in, but the Terror Drone does still survive. He needs to go for that stasis ray, and he's like, that bug, man, because the MCV was stasis, so it shouldn't have really crushed that Bullfrog, but it did, and unfortunately, Red Alert 3 game logic just sometimes does that. That power plant is actually quite exposed. Unfortunately for GBHMichael, it's not quite going to be enough to send him into a low power mode, to send Fordell into a low power mode, but the MCV push has been deterred. It has been delayed by an extreme amount, and that is what GBHMichael needed. That is exactly what he... Well, it's not game-winning, but that's exactly what he needed to make it into the next stage of this game and to have a much better shot at taking this. One of the reactors could be getting targeted down. They're looking for the most opportune target. Vindicators pulling back around. They're not exactly sure where they want to go. They want to stay away from this flak cannon, though, that's for sure. And a couple of Bullfrogs. 3 Bullfrogs and a flak cannon will be enough to clean up only one of the Vindicators, but still trading 1 Vindicator. Oh, never mind. He got 2 of the Bullfrogs, so it's not worth it, unfortunately, for GBHMichael. It was close to being worth it, and of course, with the repairs being pretty darn good on aircraft, he doesn't have to worry too much about those Bullfrogs dealing killing blows. Conscripts getting sent out to that power plant. Unfortunately, won't quite be able to take it down very quickly. Maybe eventually we'll be able to take it out, but again, not quickly enough. Fordell blocking one of the sides of the refinery with a power plant. The other side could be blocked with a naval yard or another power plant just to keep that harvester safe. And now Fordell moving out. 4 Vindicators going to be moving in on a potential target. What will they actually decide? For now, they're just going for the scout. They're just going to look around, see if there's any good, juicy targets that are maybe able for them. Maybe targets that they could take out. Of course, 4 Vindicators. Oh. depending on how they end up kiting, they could end up getting trapped by the bullfrogs. With 5 bullfrogs out on the field, that's a lot of DPS, and a misclick of just a couple of seconds, of just a moment or two, could spell absolute defeat for those Vindicators. Because a couple of extra shots from those bullfrogs, and suddenly instead of losing 1 Vindicator, you're losing 2, and now maybe you don't actually get to kill as many bullfrogs as you would like, so then on the retreat, your other Vindicators end up going down. Another sentry gun going to be established by GBHMichael. He is playing quite defensive. He is, of course, that's how he has to play. He has to bunker up pretty hard against this sort of allied play, but IFV will be getting infected, and of course this Terror Drone can potentially go for a chain infect against these IFVs and the Riptide. GBHMichael going to be kicking himself for letting him fall into low power. And oh no, the super reactor is so close to going down, but these reactors could also be targeted down just to try to elongate that low power mode. Once the super reactor is up, he should be fine. Harvester does end up getting killed off. The reactors will be targeted next. Shouldn't be too big of a deal. He should have enough power with the super reactor to keep that sentry gun online. Potentially even drop down some more base defenses. Oh, this conscript. He has got such work ahead of him with the repair going down on that power plant. Fordell is able to keep it alive for so long. It does indeed have 4 refineries. He has had the 4 refineries for quite some time. Just camps that IFV way out on GBH's side of the map. 5 bullfrogs. Of course, they want to just push away Vindicators. They want to keep Vindicators from actually doing anything. Engineer cap on the garage for Fordell will be allowing his units on the ground to survive that much longer. It means his MCV is that much tankier, but again, engineers don't care about repairs. And once more, they're going for that infect move. The Terror Drones will be able to grab that. And the engineer will pop inside of that bullfrog. Would be nice if GBHMichael would eventually end up grabbing one of those garages. Not actually sure where the engineer is because he didn't actually grab that garage. Fordell, not exactly sure where he decided to go with it. Oh, he tried to jump inside and grab an ore refinery from his opponent. That would have been a nice move. Kind of debatable move just because that's a very unlikely thing to have happen. I mean, a lot of players will just sell off that structure at the last possible moment just so that you can't actually capture it. And this... I don't know, that MCV doesn't have that far to drive to get full repairs, and he's just sitting there tanking that extra bit of damage. Going to take him quite a while to heal all the way back up to full HP, as we do have Vindicators once again swinging in. Could just go for the reactor. Not exactly a high-value target, but with no super reactor. The super reactor is being reconstructed over here. So with no super reactor... Oh, I bet the super reactor was forced to be sold off from that engineer, so actually that was a pretty good move there by Fordell. Sorry about that. I did end up missing it. Engineer grabbing that garage, and of course Soviets having a garage and having a way to repair their ground units without a crane is one of those things that some people have brought into question as far as the counter system and how Red Alert 3 was designed. Is it a good thing to have Soviets be able to play with those repairs? Is it a bad thing? Does it not matter? People have different opinions, but GBHMichael trying to push the issue, trying to get on top of his opponent's infrastructure and actually do some of that critical damage. IFV is going to be targeting down some of these units, but of course, unfortunately, they are going to be going for the bears, a couple of them, instead of actually targeting down the more high-value units and the units that actually do damage to them. Hammer tanks will be able to deal with a lot of these IFVs, especially with the repairs coming off here. The multi-gunner IFV with the engineer inside of it will be lending some nice healing ability to these units. Bear going to be coming in, won't actually get too many kills. The second bear trying to get a roar off, but won't really be able to do anything. GBHMichael should be able to press on forward. The hammer tanks and infantry continuing to stream out across the map as he's pushing forward. If he could call down a Badger bomber, that would actually be pretty good, but calling down satellites on this multi-gunner turret is pretty good as well, forcing the sell-off of it there. And GBHMichael may be able to push the issue right here, right now. Sentry gun, no, it's a Tesla coil actually being constructed out on the water expansion for GBHMichael. Airfield in the middle of constructing, I'm not sure exactly what. Has he gone all the way up to tier 3? Could it be a Kirov? No, it looks like that answer is probably no right now. And sniping down this garage would be a really nice move for GBHMichael. And similarly, Fordell should go ahead and snipe down the garage of his opponent. Tesla Coil won't really be needed to push away that Riptide. Will be forced to, well, will actually be killed off by that, by the Twin Blade there. Oh, that Harvester will actually not be blocked by the IFV. It's not actually able to keep that Harvester from crushing the Engineer. A nice move by GBHMichael to save his refinery and cost another 500 credits to Fordell. Conscripts moving out. And also these hammer tanks shifting onto the front lines as well. Now, the one thing that we haven't seen very much from Fordell is those cryocopters, which potentially, partnered with the high number of Vindicators that he has, would be a really good idea for just, you know, that harassment out around the fringes. Tesla Coils don't do too well versus those, versus cryocopters, so that's a thing to keep in mind. Garage being captured by Fordell means that even when he loses this one, he will still have that repair, and that's going to be extremely nice for his ground forces. These Vindicators have been around, well, some of them have been around for quite some time. Going for potentially another bombing run. I'm assuming there's some sort of cryo blast, or... No, they're just going to drop their bombs. It's enough! It's enough to take out the airfield. I thought it was actually more than 4 to take out an airfield like that, but I guess maybe with the veteran status, they have just enough DPS to take that down. Don't even need cryo shot, don't need cryo blast, nothing like that. Engineer going to be loaded up into that Twin Blade, potentially for that garage recapture on the left side of the map. Actually, a spy loaded inside of this multi-gunner IFV, I guess just to steal a little bit of cash from your opponent, but it could also be to grab a couple of hammer tanks. Oh my word, if he's able to get a really money shot on these hammer tanks, a couple of them could be tossed into the wrong side of the fray. GBHMichael does need to be careful how he engages here. He is going to be pulling back away from that spy, and he will be able to target it down with nice focusing from GBH with those hammer tanks, able to clean up the spy without really be forced to kill off his own units. Vindicator swinging back around. Oh, once again, the airfield getting eliminated. Dropped bombs actually in between the airfield and the reactor to try to shut down both of the buildings simultaneously. A little bit of a trick there. Just utilizing the splash damage from the Vindicator to maximize its output. Hammer tanks, Guardians, Vert, and Athenas have all come to play, but this is the situation that many Soviet players dread, is that move into the Tier 3. And they're not quite ready for it, because with Athena cannons, Mirage tanks, and of course the special abilities therein, you can do a lot of damage and survive quite a long time as an allied player. Hammer tanks forced to pull back, forced to constantly be on the move so that the Athena cannons don't do maximum damage. Fordell constantly, well, almost constantly staying active with his Vindicators. GBHMichael trying to target down some of these Athena cannons, but he's not quite able to make it happen. The Aegis Shield is going to be protecting those units just that little bit extra. And these Vindicators, they have to be ranking up pretty far. 2 of them are elite. The other 2 are just regular old Vindicators. They're looking for those open targets. They're looking for those airfields. And GBHMichael, if he's able to find a good angle, he can really just tear through the army of his opponent. But he needs to get some good crushes off to deal with the infantry. Or potentially just utilize his conscripts, but that's going to take a long time to actually kill all of those infantry. He has to be very careful that he doesn't take too much latent damage from those Athena cannons. He has to be very careful that he does not lose or throw away too many units. And once again, the saber rattling has begun. GBHMichael looking to press forward. Will he be able to micro with the terror drones to really maximize the efficiency of his army? So far, not so much, but an economy or a refinery is being established in the north. At this point, I imagine The main base refineries are getting pretty low on HP, I guess. Or not low on HP, low on resources. They still got, 20, 25,000 credits left. GBHMichael does have the garage, of course, allowing him to... Oh, this engagement is much better as the Athenacans are all the way at the front, allowing them to be picked off relatively easily as one of them does pop the Aegis shield, trying to get the Mirage tanks under that protection, but GBHMichael has so many units, he's been able to piecemeal apart this army, just pull it bit by bit down, and now GBHMichael has such numbers, such forces. Tesla troopers mixed in here would be absolutely crazy, but he doesn't have it. He may not need it. As now, the Vindicators, they fire off their one round. Cryocopters eventually coming out, but they're a little bit too late to the party as GBHMichael presses on forward, calls down satellites, or no, it is going to be the Badger Bomber to call down those Desolator airstrikes. To call down the Desolator airstrike and deal with some of that infantry and push away the army. Cryoblast does fire off. This is Fordel's opportunity to move forward to take some seriously good engagements and crush some of these hammer tanks. There's still a lot of forces here for our Soviet player as GBHMichael is going to press forward, target down these last couple of Mirage tanks with that Leech Beam. And the Mirage tanks getting eliminated one by one. There is still Javelin troopers here, but they just have nothing to tank for them. They have nothing to buffer for them. The GG comes down. Fordal has been defeated, and GBHMichael takes the long 1-1 against Fordal, making this a true series. It is not going to be a shutout. It is going to be a proper back and forth, and GBHMichael showing that he has what it takes to take it off of a fast airfield into base-pushing allies like Fordel and the current reigning champ of For the Win, number 29. GBHMichael wants to make that top 4. Once he's there, he's so much closer to taking this tournament. Welcome to Battle Base Delta, spawning in the northern position, our red Soviet player from Team NACL. Can he finish things out and make another Soviet player proud? This is GBHMichael. NACL, of course, the saltiest clan in Red Alert 3. In the southern position, our purple allied player showing some highly aggressive play, potentially some cheese. This is Fordel. I think he's literally fast airfielded every single game of this series. So, if it works, it works. I mean, some people don't like watching that fast airfield sort of play, but people do what wins. People do what wins. And you can't really blame people for wanting to win. People like winning. People do what wins. So once again, he's pausing that flak cannon right at the end of its production cycle so that he can finish it in literally a second. He can just finish it almost immediately. And then he can have that defense, or he can cancel it and get the full cash back and never have it actually on his power grid. A little bit of a trick there. Oh! Vindicator gets pushed back, and now this will most likely be canceled. He might keep it around until he's got a couple of more flak troopers out and ready to go. But for now, he is going to just keep that around a little bit longer. He is almost safe enough to just go ahead and cancel that. Bear does get cleaned up, but GBHMichael got the full scout off. He was able to see the MCV heading towards the high ground. Of course, he doesn't know exactly if it is for sure going to be a base push immediately, but he can be pretty sure that that's what it's going to be. Of course, in a couple of seconds, he will be for sure. He will be far enough out that he'll be like, okay, the MCV should be, somewhere around here if he was base pushing me. The MCV is not there, so he's obviously doing something else. GBHMichael went triple racks, and he's, of course, pumping a lot of flak troopers. This is a pretty heavy investment from him, and we'll see exactly if he's able to make this work, because pretty much all of his flak troopers just got eliminated. One more just for good measure. Fordel really wanted to make that worth it. He did lose one of his Vindicators, but he still does have 3 on the deck. It looks like Messican was saying that he is streaming, so if I do have to leave, I can host him and he can finish out the tournament, and then I will cast it from replays. Hopefully that won't have to happen, but that is a solution, and that will be just fine if that is what ends up happening. Well, that's annoying for Fordel. He does have to deal with that civvy structure being taken over by conscripts. It's not going to be into a third refinery. Instead, it was just to get out a Rax and throw down that multi-gunner turret, that extra bit of defense. Triple Rax is still out on the field for GBHMichael. He has packed up his MCV, could be heading to the high ground over here. Try to make use of that expansion. Instead, more of these conscripts are being eliminated, but of course, losing the conscripts not nearly as bad as losing those flak troopers. That is the far worse of the two. Flak troopers are just so expensive in comparison. I mean, really, if a Vindicator kills off 3 flak troopers, it's paid for itself. And then after that, everything is just gravy. Again, reactors could be targeted down. 3 Vindicators can't do a huge amount of damage. Could go ahead and try to take out a couple of the barracks, but won't quite be able to do that either. With 4 Vindicators, I think you can take out 2 Racks with the Advanced Aeronautic upgrade. Nice bomb splitting by Fordell. Is able to clean up 6 of those conscripts, which of course will make his Peacekeepers that much more powerful. If they have less conscripts to contend with, they'll be able to do a bit better. Fordell still has his MCV packed up over here, is going to be able to drop a refinery if that's what he chooses to do. I'm not sure if that's exactly what he's going to be doing. He may be going for an airfield drop over here just to try to get himself a faster reinforcement point, somewhere that he can get refueled and re-back into the game a lot quicker. It is going to be the refinery. So it is going to be Trip Refine versus Triple Refinery. And then GBHMichael does have the oil derrick, so that's a slight advantage for him. Also on this map, always do like to point out the fact that there is the garages on the map. So if you want to utilize them with some vehicle units, you can indeed do that. That is your prerogative. Vindicators once again coming in. Bullfrogs are now out on the field, but the majority of these units are conscripts, which, of course, they don't do very well in trades against Vindicators or Peacekeepers. As you can see, those conscripts pretty much all just getting annihilated by those Vindicators. And the Peacekeepers got a couple of shots in as well. Oh, there's actually the 3rd refinery. I guess it just finished. Oh. Wow, my mouse just freaked out there for a second as I tried to check the amount of resources left on that building. And of course, you can type !brackets if you're watching on Twitch and you want to check out the bracket to see where exactly in the tournament we are, how exactly everything has gone down, if that's what you want. Or you can check out the VODs later. They will be on YouTube. I'll probably upload the entire thing, just edited, and then I might separate out like some of the more important VODs or some of the better series so that people can have those as standalones. Multi-gunner turret now in the main base of GBHMichael. He, of course, hates having to deal with this. Every player does. Anytime someone has to deal with a turret push, it's just so frustrating to deal with. Infantry going to be pressuring the front, while in the back is the MCV and those multi-gunner turrets. Of course, you do have these little pathways, which weren't actually present in Battle Base Beta. You do have that little pathway over from that expansion area to your main, or to your opponent's main in this case, as the ore refinery is starting to be torn apart. The multi-gunner turrets breaking down the barracks as well, and GBHMichael is going to be getting pressured from basically 2 different fronts at once, with both multi-gunner turrets and infantry. Infantry, ooh, the laser lock on that war factory, not quite long enough to take it down, but enough to do some serious damage to it as the multi-gunner turrets working away at these walls, going to be cleaning some of them up. The bullfrogs on the top half of the structure, not really going to be all that useful considering there's not really any aircraft for them to deal with. The GG comes back. GBHMichael obviously not too happy about how this tournament has gone, but you gotta hand it to Fordell. He played quite well. Will be able to take that win and cruise into the next round of the tournament. Of course, thank you to GBHMichael for playing, but he will go down 1-2 against Fordell, the current reigning champion from For the Win, number 29. Can he make it happen again? As always, we are going to be generating a list of 5 numbers because to be eligible for a random prize, the $15 random prize, of course, donated generously by Inspector Rage, Rage of Heat, as you guys probably know him. We're going to generate 5 numbers. If any of those guys did not properly participate, then we'll go to the next number. We go top to bottom, and we include all of the participants. So let's get back to it. Oh, my word. I'm just going to do a monitor capture. All right. That should do it. Okay. Here we go. Random.org. Now, let's take a quick look at the participants list. Sorry about this jankiness, guys, but I do have to go. It is... I mean, there's nothing I can do about it. There you go. So 1 through 20. We've got 20 players in total, so we're going to generate. Actually, let's go to the number integer. Format in one column, generate 5 random between 1 and 20. So it says both inclusive. That means both the number 1 and the number 20 can be generated. And this is how we do their drawings. It's worked out pretty well. And of course, this will be available on Twitch. You can always double check this VOD for as long as it's up. 19, 17, 19, 11, and 2. So number 19 is ODS Foxtonian. Everyone can see that. Everyone can verify that. I'm even going to screenshot the numbers. All right, so there we go. The winner of the random prize is ODS Foxtonian. I mean, he even won twice. Look at that.